Well, yeah, I guess. Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't. If you were trying to sell it.
We've had this conversation before, Steve. You and I drive all over the UK all the blooming time. So we don't get a drink anyway because we're always driving. Yeah. So it's not like I'm missing it.
Oh, wait, I don't go anywhere in Britain.
And I don't go anywhere. I was kidding about
the show is nearly over. It was time to take another look at Sunday's front pages.
Let's
start with the Sun. Will's shock at terror death of pal. Sunday Telegraph, net zero drive will raise cost of holidays. The Observer, fears of unrest as PM considers open prison for more offenders. Sunday Express, in the bleak with Minter, know what you feel like. The Mail poll, Starmer will be out of number 10 in a year, and the Star goes with the age of the budgie smuggler. That's it for tonight's show. Thanks to my guests, Paul and Lewis. Simon Evans will be back tomorrow at 11 p.m. with Lewis and Leo Kurtz. And if you've been watching at 5 a.m, stay exactly where you are, because breakfast is on the way for you soon. If you've been watching at 11, you've got to wait longer to get breakfast, but it's all still heading in the same direction. Till the next one, have yourself a good one.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. It remains very unsettled through the rest of this weekend. Heavy snow, particularly across northern England, North Wales, the Midlands for a time. The risk of ice in places too, and heavy rain as well for parts of Wales and the southwest, all thanks to this area of low pressure moving in from the Atlantic, bumping into cold air. So we've got widespread heavy snow across parts of Wales, the Midlands, East Anglia, pushing northwards into northern England, southern Scotland, turning back to rain though on its southern edge. So outbreaks of rain for the rest of England and Wales. We could see some disruption. Met Office warnings in force as temperatures plummet below freezing, and quite widely an unsettled start to Sunday morning. We could see travel disruption, power outages, particularly across northern parts of England, southern Scotland to start Sunday morning. A bit of a drier picture first thing across northern Scotland, some sunny spells, wintry showers. Icy stretches though as temperatures are well below freezing. Icy stretches for Northern Ireland too, and then disruptive snow as we push into northern England. So do take care if you are travelling first thing. And across the rest of England and Wales, a wet start. Outbreaks of rain here, turning quite windy as well. And little change through the day really. We continue to see outbreaks of snow, particularly across northern England, southern and eastern Scotland. A wintry mix across Northern Ireland. Sunny spells and wintry showers for northern Scotland as well. A little brighter across central southern parts of England after some early heavy rain, and temperatures here mild, 12 to 14 Celsius, but cold under the snow and ice. An icy start to Monday as well, as weather systems slowly start to pull away, but a wintry feel for everyone through the day with sunny spells and wintry showers, particularly across the north of the UK, drier further south and east. And it stays cold through much of next week as well, but turning drier and brighter later on. See you soon.
We can expect clear skies, leading to a light and warm day ahead. Lovely. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date. Or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking, this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them. Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good morning, good morning. Widespread power cuts, I'm afraid, as the country braces for heavy snow and rare freezing rain. More than 1,200 homes are apparently without power now. There are flight delays and roads are closed. A second weather warning for snow was issued last night, covering most of northern England and will remain in place until midnight tonight. GB News can exclusively reveal Keir Starmer ignored a Rotherham grooming gang whistleblower's bullying complaint. Our reporter Charlie Peters has the latest for you. The Health Secretary has vowed to scrap more than 1 million of what he calls pointless NHS hospital appointments as he seeks to cut waiting lists. And it's a sad day, really, in America because everybody is waving goodbye to the former President Jimmy Carter. It's the start of a week-long state funeral. And apparently it's 12th night. It's either today or tomorrow, depending on which expert you consult. But it will, of course, mark the last night of the 12 days of Christmas and the coming of the Feast of Epiphany. And as an NHS trust promotes veganuary in a push to boost diversity and inclusion, we're asking, is that the NHS's job to promote veganism?
Good morning. Manchester United boss Ruben Amorim has reportedly told his squad to use darts hero Luke Littler as inspiration to pull off a shock result at Anfield today. Liverpool face United looking to end a run of 4 successive defeats. Elsewhere, Arsenal's title hopes were dealt a blow at Brighton. More later.
Good morning. A disruptive start to the day. Amber warnings for snow and ice across parts of the UK. Stay tuned to the forecast with all the details coming up soon.
Well, it's just gone 6 o'clock. I'm Anne Diamond, and this is GB News Breakfast. Well, his cup of tea is here. And it's all ready for him there. And Stephen isn't here yet because, I mean, as we all know, snow and icy weather conditions and black ice on roads is throughout Britain, a lot of Britain anyway. And Stephen's rung in to say he'll be a bit late today because I think it's proving to be a pretty bad journey for him.
It is. I mean, I imagine it's probably a bit worse an hour or two outside of London as well, isn't it? I think in central London, snow doesn't really settle. I certainly didn't find that this morning. I came in from the Wimbledon area, which is probably about half an hour from here.
Yeah, I came
but
in
it was just wet.
More like South Midlands.
Yes, yes.
And, yeah, the snow was bad.
I tell you what, there's a parking space, though, where I am, and everyone avoids it. And if it's dry, I think, why is everyone avoiding it? Yes, OK, there's a few branches hanging over. Yeah. But what actually happens is that when it rains, a puddle generates forms around the car. So I almost had to get, like, a little dinghy to the door.
You have to wear wellies just to get
I just had to get on my heels, on my shoes, and then I had to open the door, throw the laptop and everything in there and try to strategically manoeuvre myself into the seat. Yeah, exactly.
There's always a reason.
I know. And for some reason, the heat took a while to warm up in the car as well.
Yeah, well, no, it's very cold, and some people... I mean, it must be so awful to be in these conditions and not have any power.
Oh, no, it's horrible.
Because most of us were lucky enough to be able to turn up the heating or something like that last night.
Exactly.
And on my family WhatsApp, which when they talk late into the evening, I'm always in bed by then, but they were all saying, has anyone got snow? Has anyone got snow yet? Most of my family live in the south. I looked out the window and there, it was there. So I took a picture of it. If you've got pictures of the snow outside where you live, please send them in. You use the old way of sending things. You do gbviews@gbnews.com, please. That's the way to get your snowy pictures in. It'd be lovely to see how you're being affected. And don't forget, when you do send them in, tell us where it is that you live so we can actually see it. And meanwhile, if you're watching from the island of Fula in the Shetland Islands, happy Christmas for tomorrow. It's Britain's most remote inhabited island. It's located 16 miles west of mainland Shetland and 100 miles north of mainland Scotland. And a particularly beautiful place, apparently. I don't think I've ever been there. But they still live by the Julian calendar, the old Roman Julian calendar, which means that Christmas is celebrated on January the 6th, 12 days after the rest of the world. And it's known locally as Yule. And they celebrate New Year on January the 13th. Isn't that fascinating?
It is. So the day after
in Britain that lives by the Julian calendar.
So the day after, well, a week after 12th night.
That's right.
Are you bringing your tree down tonight? Or
well, I didn't put it up at all.
Oh, yeah, of course you did.
I went away in the end, So it's the first... I cannot remember a Christmas where I haven't always had the tree up and lots of decks.
Yes.
This time, I haven't had to face taking them down.
Tonight, I think. No, tonight is mine.
Tonight is meant to be the night.
Quite fiddly. There's about 1,000 lights on it, so... I mean, they're all joined together.
Yeah. Oh, good. Each individual one.
But it's finding the end of it, though, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
I can't remember where I put it. I think I just had a few drinks when I put it up.
Yeah, well, we don't go there. But, it's... But what's weird is that there are... according to different experts, and we're going to be talking to a historian who'll be an expert on this later on, so he'll be able to tell us, some research tells you that it's 12th night tonight, and some that it's tomorrow. I always thought it was January the 6th.
Yes, I did as well.
Yeah,
absolutely.
But given that tomorrow is a Monday, when people will be going back to work, maybe the best day to take down the decks anyway is today.
But I'm not a big one for superstition. If it doesn't get done till tomorrow, I'm not going to worry about bad luck.
No,
not really. We've had enough of that with the weather, haven't we? So.
Yeah, the weather, pretty bad, isn't it? Yeah. OK, we'll move on, shall we? Or see you later.
See you in a bit.
Oh, I tell you what, people are still talking about Luke Littler.
They are indeed.
His picture's still all over all of the newspapers at the moment. Going to sleep, clutching his trophy.
Yeah, I know. Well, he gave a press conference yesterday about 10:30. So this is the thing. I applied to do a one-to-one with him on this show, but nobody got one-on-ones unless they actually went there because the demand to see him now, it's just so high. He may as well do a press conference where he can't accommodate all these one-to-ones.
Yeah.
And so he did this press conference, and so everyone got their material or whatever. But it just shows how I've never known that happen. Usually when we cover the darts champion the day after
you can usually get them.
You can usually get them pretty easy now. It's different now.
Yeah, it's different already, isn't it?
It is.
OK, well, we'll talk more about him later on. Right now, there's no doubt the thing that's bothering most people at the moment is the weather. There are power cuts and flights have been cancelled, and travel chaos is sweeping the nation from heavy snow and freezing rain after 2 amber weather warnings were issued by the Met Office. Rural communities have been warned that they could be cut off due to the weather, with some areas facing up to 30 centimetres of snowfall. And this all comes as the UK grapples with a week-long spell of wintry conditions. We're joined now, I think, if the weather's good for us, with weather expert Phil Morris. Good morning, Phil.
Good morning to you, Anne, and a Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Now, whereabouts are you, and have you got snow?
I'm in near Mount Sorrel, which is near Loughborough. I have about 2 centimetres outside on the floor. It's very, very slippery outside, and we've had a lot of snow overnight. Now, it came in as it forecast to the south first. So the Midlands has had 2 or 3 centimetres. South Midlands got 3 or 4. It was very heavy snow in Oxfordshire, Berkshire last night, and the snow's moved up into Wales. It's now 8 or 9 centimetres in parts of Wales. I've just had a note from my brother-in-law Ian in South Kirby in Wakefield. They've had 3 centimetres, and up on the moors and the hills, 9 or 10. So it's pretty widespread to the snow this morning.
Yeah,
now, this low pressure.
Sorry, I was going to say, it's interesting you mentioned the South Midlands there, because that's my journey. And it's more or less Stephen's as well. And if you're watching at the moment, you'll see that Stephen isn't in yet. Stephen Dixon hasn't quite made it in yet. I think he's well on his way. But yeah, and we noticed that while there was a lot of snow, it's very wet, sloshy snow, which is very difficult to drive in.
It is, and it's most of this snow has fallen at a temperature in 0 and 1 Celsius. And as you said, it's got a very high water content, and it is very slippery as well. It's very difficult to manoeuvre and slip. The cars can slip, but although it's not really very deep in many places, it is very slippery, very hard to negotiate, particularly on a Sunday morning when you haven't got a lot of cars yet. It is quite dangerous out there. Now, the heavy snow at the moment is now moving north into northern England. Now, we've got some slightly milder air to the south of London. It is milder, and this will gradually move north a little bit today, but over northern England, where the heavy snow warning is, it's going to remain very cold, very snow, perhaps up to 10 to 20 centimetres of snow up there. Very, very wintry indeed. So I really would advise against travelling in the north of England, particularly on the high level roads. It's going to be very, very nasty today. Meanwhile, on the south, it might turn a little bit milder for a bit as this low pressure moves across. And then during the rest of this week, the low pressure is going to move to the east, allowing the cold northerly air to come back, and some more sleet and snow around for the whole of this week. Looks very cold. So a wintry week. We've not got used to 2 of those in recent years.
No, that's right. It's quite early for it as well, isn't it, really? I'd heard that it was only going to last a couple of days, but you're saying it could actually go well on for a bit.
What's going to happen is it's going to be slightly milder for today and tomorrow. Then this is going to move east to low pressure, but that's going to allow the cold Arctic air to come down for the week now. So it's going to have some more heavy frost, some sleet and snow showers around. So most of this week's going to be cold after a short, milder spell in the south, but it's going to stay cold in the north. The mild air is not ever going to reach there, and that cold air is sweeping south again. So take care. The conditions out there are not good, and look after yourself and take heed of all the warnings.
Yes, I know. We get made fun of quite a lot by our own viewers. Good morning. Who say, why, so it's January, you'd expect it to be cold and snowy. Yes, but it's always worth warning people that if you don't have to go out, don't, because the roads are pretty treacherous. Certainly they were this morning.
Well, it is, and the pavements as well. And you step outside, I did with my dog yesterday, and they sort of slipped over straight onto the floor because there's black ice on the pavement. And you mentioned freezing rain.
Yeah.
Well, people say, what is freezing rain? Well, as you get warmer temperatures in the atmosphere, the actual snow will melt. But as the rain hits the frozen surfaces, it turns to glass. It's quite a rare event, usually end of a cold spell, but it really is extremely dangerous because you can just literally, it becomes glass, the surface, and you can slip really easily. And so 1 or 2 reports of freezing rain again. So you've got all of the winter hazards out there this morning. To take care, keep listening to GB News and they'll give you the very best coverage.
Absolutely. Well, you just started that. Thanks very much indeed for joining us so early in the morning.
Have a great day.
Thank you. Yeah, do watch how you go. I must say, when I was getting to the car this morning, I couldn't see where the edge of the curb was, of the pavement, to get to the road. And I sort of fell off the curb because the snow was just covering everything evenly. It just shows how little things like that could cause a fall, so be careful. But looking on the nicer side of the snow, if you've got some nice snowy pictures, do send them in to us. Cheer us up a bit with the lights and the snow and everything. Send them into gbviews@gbnews.com in the old-fashioned way. If you're wondering where Stephen is, he's making his way through the snow. His cup of tea has been made for him and it's waiting for him here. Stephen, if you're listening on the radio, your cup of tea is getting cold. But I think he'll make it in quite soon. There's lots of politics about as well today. Where's the Mail? Yeah, here's an interesting one. The Mail have done, Mail on Sunday, a poll of their own. Starmer will be out of number 10 in a year. He's not going to be very happy to read that. But there's lots more going on. And apparently, a lot of West Streeting this morning. He has said that patients feel powerless and that the NHS is stuck in the age of one size fits all. That's according to the Health Secretary. His comments come as the government outlines its plans to cut waiting lists and move the NHS into the digital age. Now, some of the changes include upgrades to the NHS app, an happy new year, one of the newspapers saying, allowing you to receive test results and book follow-up appointments. And the Health Secretary also says he hopes that the plans will allow working-class patients to receive the same choice, control and convenience as the wealthy. Well, political correspondent for The Spectator, James Heal, joins us in the studio now. Morning. Yeah, there's a lot of politics about it today. West Streeting is coming over as a very much more positive image than his leader, Keir Starmer, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that that's why he's really well regarded as one of the best communicators in the Cabinet. He's obviously got off to a good start in some ways by talking about the reform package, talking about the need to deliver for consumers, not just producers, not just the people within the health service, but those who are using the health service. And this all comes ahead of Keir Starmer's big speech tomorrow, where Streeting really setting out a vision for the NHS, which is much more about sort of consumers taking control of that, making the use of the NHS app, and also being able to ensure they have choice. And of course, it is a legal responsibility for the NHS to offer, if you're having hospital treatment, 5 different types of hospital. But now West Streeting, as the Health Secretary, is taking the lead on this and saying you need to make sure you're actually offering this, because a lot of the time doctors don't, frankly, give the patients the choice of that and make them aware of their options that are open to them.
And of course, his big thing that he must deliver, really, before the next election is getting down waiting list times and trying to make the NHS appear to be, at least, more efficient.
Yes.
What's this idea he's been putting forward of fast-tracking certain people through their GP rather than always insisting on hospital referrals?
So the big thing for Labour is that they think that we're quite a sick country. You look at, for instance, the post-pandemic rise in the number of people claiming benefits. Their hope is that if you can kind of nip problems in the bud, if you can deal with issues as soon as possible with the GP, with a local service, you will therefore prevent the kind of backlogs we've seen as people go to A&E further down the line. So his whole thing is talking about making the GP very accessible, ensuring that you have the regular person to deal with so you can then identify some of the issues and therefore potentially prevent some of the more costly and longer-term consequences down the line of the NHS and the A&E. So that's what he's dealing with. Obviously, the current backlog stands at 7.5 million. And I think that one of the stories that's been sort of overlooked at the moment currently, perhaps we will see more of this given the current cold weather you were just talking about there, is the fact that flu admissions to hospital is up twice as much as last year. And so whether that's going to cause a belated winter kind of crisis in the NHS in January, February, that is going to be a key thing for West Streeting, I'd say.
Well, of course, we always get a crisis in the NHS in the bad weather, don't we?
Yeah.
It's something they can expect. They've never had the budget before to really try and counter it before it happens. But West Streeting is notable as the only cabinet minister who really got a huge sum of money to be able to spend. How's he going to spend it?
Well, so yeah, he got 22 billion, and really that's the big Labour offering of this government, I think, which is that they're going to put your taxes up, but they're going to offer better public services, and that's going to be the key thing 3 to 4 years down the line. Part of them will be spent on technology. So West Streeting is one of the kind of cabinet evangelists on artificial intelligence, and the idea being we upgrade the NHS technology, we can sort of spend millions to save billions further down the line in terms of longer-term conditions. It'll also be about ensuring that we get some of those backlogs dealt with sooner, and also investing more in the GPs. And I think in some ways Labour will be re-elected or not, how they've delivered on those public service reforms in 3 to 4 years' time.
The fact that we're talking about West Streeting the way we are makes me wonder about this poll that the Mail on Sunday... we know that the Mail on Sunday are carrying out the Mail are carrying out a daily attack on the government. But they've done this poll that shows that ordinary voters are so fed up with the Prime Minister that they reckon that he deserves to be out within a year. How would that happen? How could it happen?
So Labour historically, of course, have been very reluctant to get rid of their leaders. The Tories are much more, what can I say, mercenary when it comes to their relationship, their transaction.
Vicious, aren't they?
They can be, and sometimes they can botch it as well. Whereas Labour, if you remember Gordon Brown, he was in, he was out. They fiddled with sort of Neil Kinnock, never got rid of him. They really have a reluctance to knife leaders who they don't think are doing well. I think that it would basically work would be a series of grandees would come to Keir Starmer and tell him the time would come. But as I say, I think we're a long way from that.
It's unlikely.
This is the end of the year, so I mean, maybe 12 months' time we'll see. But right now, I think it's much more sort of warning signs. I think the Prime Minister himself knows he needs to get a grip of it, get better going forward. You can't have another 6 months like 6 months we just had. But I think, given he won a landslide majority just 6 months ago, I think it's a bit premature. But I think it's interesting, Anne, though, because it says that the fact that voters don't think he's got the authority does influence how he's regarded within the party and in politics generally.
Yeah, and how is that at the moment? What's the feeling amongst the Labour faithful?
I think they're a little bit disappointed by the first 6 months, how that's gone. I think they want to see a step up in the new year. And I think there was some surprise, given how for 2 years it looked like Labour was going to win a big majority. There was so little preparation for when that eventuality did occur.
Meanwhile, Nigel Farage v Kemi Badenoch.
Yes.
How's that going?
Well, this is really
There are a number of cartoons in today's papers.
Are there? I haven't seen...
Fighting it out in the ring. Yeah.
Well, that's a precursor for the next 4 or 5 years, really. They're the two big pugilists of the right of British politics, and they're going to be scrapping it out for as many votes as they can, because they both know that one of them it's existential and the other it's live or die. So they're going to be the ones sort of battling for attention, and I think the Tories are getting used to the fact that for the first time in many, many years, they can't count on just being the Conservative Party in order to qualify for attention.
It's a fascinating time to be a political correspondent.
I'm loving it every day, yeah.
Oh, I bet you are, yeah. It's a fascinating time. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you. And interestingly, that's the question in our poll of the day. Today we're asking, as the war of words between Nigel Farage and Kemi Badenoch intensifies, do you believe reform can beat the Conservatives in key election battlegrounds? We'll be bringing you the live results throughout the day, so make sure to stay tuned. The final result will be announced later in Nana Akwe's show. And as you know, for all our latest polls, news and how to vote, just go to gbnews.com/poll. And now the next thing to look at very closely is the weather. Here's Greg Dewhurst.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast. A very unsettled day ahead. We've got heavy snow, also heavy rain, and some melting snow leading to the risk of some flooding in places. And we've got amber warnings in force across northern parts of the UK, from the Met Office, heavy snow up to 40 centimetres possible across the higher routes, leading to disruption, some power outages as well. We also have heavy rain moving into parts of Wales with melting snow here, could lead to some localised flooding. To the south of this, bright and breezy, but temperatures on the mild side, 13, 14 Celsius. But for the vast majority, a cold, icy day to come, and icy stretches quickly reforming across parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland as we move into the evening time. Further wintry showers moving in from the north across northern Scotland here. Could see some local icy stretches overnight into Monday morning as well. Wintry outbreaks across Northern Ireland, and then heavy snow across northern England, southern Scotland, but rain to lower levels in places, and where we've had some snow, this continuing to melt, and then mild air pushing across the rest of England and Wales, but heavy rain as well moving its way eastwards as we head towards the early hours of Monday. Further snow across the north and the west into the early hours, so icy stretches reforming here, and staying quite breezy, particularly in the east, with further showers moving in. Temperatures in the north falling below freezing once more, but still mild across some southern counties of England and Wales, 4 or 5 degrees to start the day. This weather system slowly pushes into the near continent. Still the risk of some sleet and snow as it does so, brightening up for many as colder air then sinks southwards for everyone, and a cold afternoon to come on Monday. Sunny spells, wintry showers most frequent across the north, feeling cold again, temperatures in single figures across all parts of the country. See you again soon.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Is it or is it not 12th night today? Rich has been in touch. Says, Anne, if the first day of Christmas is the 25th of December, work your way through the calendar and you end up with the 12th day, i.e. 12th night. Today, the 5th. Tomorrow is Epiphany. I think you've probably got it dead right there, Rich. Thanks very much indeed. But we will be talking about what to do on 12th night, when the history of 12th night, a bit later on in the programme. Do stay with us. Stephen's making his way in. He might be here very soon. And meanwhile, if you stick with us, in a couple of moments, we'll be crossing live to America, where Americans are waving goodbye to the former President Jimmy Carter. It is the start of his week-long state funeral. That's next.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
1 in 20 people are diagnosed with seasonal affective disorder across the UK.
Yes, Healthwatch has revealed that men are more likely to suffer from this than women. Did you know?
Triggers apparently include a decrease in daylight hours, which is certainly happening around about now. If you're leaving the office, it's dark. When you come home, it's dark, as well as the falling temperatures.
Yes, and both of those things happen a lot, don't they, here in Britain? So how can we combat the symptoms of seasonal affective disorder? Well, to discuss this, we're joined now by Dr. Andreas Fonseca, the founder and director of Thrive Mental Wellbeing. Really good to see you this morning, Doctor. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Now, there'll be lots of people watching and listening this morning and saying, what a load of rubbish. It's always been cold in this country. It's always been dark. What is seasonal affective disorder? Is it really a thing?
Well, it is a thing, and it's been known for quite some time. This is not new, really. It is a form of depression. That's what it is. And it's got specific characteristics that kind of differentiate it from other forms of depression. So the reason probably we're talking more about it is because it's basically people are more aware of it and they're recognizing it more. So before you used to be sort of just saying this person's got depression, now you have some specific things to look at that can differentiate it from other kinds of depression, which is quite useful because it's got some specific forms of treatment. So the things that are different about seasonal affective disorder are that for the diagnosis you need 2 years in which you only have episodes during either the late autumn or early winter. So that's when they start, and they fade away by late spring, summer. Early summer. So that's how it works. And you cannot have any episodes at any other time. So it has to be seasonal, specifically seasonal.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Thank you, Britain.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks for subscribing.
Thank you for your support.
It's you that make us the People's Channel.
As we reflect on our journey so far, we're filled with immense gratitude.
You mean the world to us. We couldn't have reached this point without you.
As a very special thank you, we are giving you the chance to win one of 50 GB News thank you boxes. They're worth £50 each.
For full terms and conditions, and to enter, just go to gbnews.com/thank you.
And welcome to GB News Breakfast this morning. It's just me on my own for the moment, but I'm told that Stephen Dixon is in the building. Wow, it's like Elvis coming. So we'll wait for him to join me in a few moments' time, I hope. Meanwhile, let's go to America. And it's the beginning of a week-long state funeral of the former US President, Jimmy Carter. That has now begun. Last night and into the early hours of this morning, a motorcade with his coffin made its way to the Carter Presidential Library in Atlanta. And there, his son Chip Carter reflected on his life.
He was an amazing man, and he was held up and propped up and soothed by an amazing woman. And the two of them together changed the world. And it was an amazing thing to watch from so close and to be able to be involved in.
Earlier on, I saw a tribute as well from his grandson, and he was in tears too. They seem to be a very closely knit family. And America has a fondness for its old, very veteran presidents. And Jimmy Carter was the longest-lived president in US history. He died at the age of 100 just a couple of weeks ago. Let's talk to the political analyst Eric Ham, who joins us live from Washington. Morning, Eric. Am I right there, do you feel, that there is a fondness for Jimmy Carter?
Oh, absolutely there is. And quite frankly, many people, I think, not only have a fondness for Jimmy Carter, but I think they see him in a much, much greater light post-presidency than they do during his actual presidency. In fact, he set the standard in terms of what the life and the work and how a former president is to comport himself when he leaves office. And so now many people not only look to what a president will do when they're in office, but more so what they will do when they leave office. In fact, if you look at former President Bill Clinton and the Clinton Global Initiative, and now, for example, former President Barack Obama with his My Brother's Keeper initiative. Many of these programs are actually programs that were launched and created basically in that same vein of service to continue to provide to not only the American people, but to the world in terms of what your life and what your work means post-presidency. That all is actually due to what we have seen from Jimmy Carter for so many years after he left the White House.
Yeah, and that's fascinating in itself, in that he was a one-term president, wasn't he? Maybe his impact was, as you say, bigger after his presidential term than even during.
That's true. And while he certainly did a lot during his presidency, and while he did not, in fact, many people saw his presidency as a failed presidency. But again, when you look at all the things that he did in terms of service, it's why he was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. We know his continued work with Habitat for Humanity, teaching Sunday school. All of this he did into his late 80s and 90s. And of course, staving off a military junta in neighboring Haiti. This, again, was over and over what we saw of Jimmy Carter continuing to give of his life and continuing to provide service to the betterment of the country and the world. The Carter Center was a center that was committed to peace and working across the world to try to end some of the most intractable conflicts that we see across the globe. And I think he certainly set the standard, not only for presidents and former presidents, but also for those who consider themselves to be leaders and men and women of service.
He seemed to be a man of compassion. I'm told that on his second day in office, he pardoned all Vietnam War draft evaders. An interesting move when you're straight away in office. And as you say, later on, he founded or suddenly worked with Habitat for Humanity, the idea of being able to provide housing for the homeless.
Yeah, that's right. And again, he was someone who always maintained this level of humility. And it's very striking because, again, when you look at the politics of the United States right now, it's a very polarized environment where you have the two sides that are constantly at odds with one another. But when you look at not only who Jimmy Carter was as president of the United States, but he was someone who maintained a level of deep, deep humility. And he never saw the office as actually elevating him above or beyond the American people. He was someone who attempted to try to move the nation to be that shining city on the hill, to live up to its ideals, its aims of what the Constitution stood for. And that's who he was as a person. And I think that's why people will continue to revere him and why you're seeing him honored in the way that he is.
Yeah, and these actions, this tribute, this state funeral goes on for a long time. It moves to Washington, D.C., I think, at some point, but his body will be taken back to his hometown in Plains in Georgia, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. In fact, I'm here in Georgia right now today, where the services are taking place. And you're seeing a somber mood across the city. I'm in Atlanta, in the city where the Carter Center is located. And there is this recognition that today that the state of Georgia lost someone that was certainly someone that was close to the state. It was the state's favorite son, and the state certainly feels that. And you recognize that all across the city today with the honor and, of course, how people are paying tribute to the former president.
Great to talk to you, Eric. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, well, I'm sorry if the weather's treating you badly at the moment. Don't forget to send in your weather pictures. Nice snow pictures would cheer us up a bit, please. Remember to tell us where you are and where it is so that we can put it in some sort of context. The weather's worse for some people than others. But do send your pictures in if you've got them to gbviews@gbnews.com. Still to come, Aidan McGee will be here to tell you all about this weekend's Premier League action, if indeed there is any with the snow. That's next. You're watching GB News Breakfast.
Lee Anderson's Real World, Fridays from 7 p.m.
Last orders at the bar, and I'm joined by Geordie Shore star Ricky Guanaccio. Have I said that right? Is that Italian?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Is Italian? Your parents Italian? Is it?
Pronunciation was pretty much perfect.
Yeah, well, there you go. So, look, mate, Geordie Shore, I've never watched it, mate, so I do apologise about that. But I know these reality TV shows are making big stars out of the people, making you famous, making you loads of money. Is it worth it?
For me personally, yeah. It's been a hell of a career. Been a hell of a lot of fun doing it. Ups and downs, but first and foremost, money-wise, yeah.
That's good. So people stopping in the street, you being famous, wanting your autograph and all. How do you cope with that, Ricky?
Well, when we first started doing the show, I mean, we got our show off the back of Jersey Shore in America. We never expected the fame that we got, and you know, being one of the biggest reality TV shows in the UK and now the world. You know, it's in 150 odd countries worldwide. Wow. It's pretty crazy. It's when you're living in houses. I mean, for example, Geordie Shore and Love Island's probably the same as well. When you're living in villas and you're living in houses, the arguing side sort of plays on your mind. You've got to deal with all that. You know, it's a hard place to be. It's a pressure cooker.
You're living in one of these villas, Ricky, or one of these houses. Do you ever wake up one morning and think, what am I doing here?
When I first started, yes. Yeah. Now, I love it.
Yeah?
Yeah, I don't mind all the, you know, there's no emotion connecting me now with filming. It's kind of like I go in there, it's fun, or it's, you know, it's dramatic, whatever it may be.
Have you ever worked behind a bar?
No.
No?
Yeah, for not a long period of time. My mum and dad had a...
Well, I can
definitely messed this one up.
Yeah, I can actually believe that you've never worked behind a bar.
Yeah, so my parents sacked us when I worked in the restaurant.
Well, obviously, I mean, you wouldn't get a job here with a pint like that, would you?
Do you want it?
No, mate, no.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. You're watching and listening to Breakfast with Stephen and Anne. Stephen in the building. He'll be here any minute. Talk about a long build-up to it. Meanwhile, Aidan has joined us. Morning.
Morning again. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. I was just wondering about, are there any fixtures today that are going to have to be put off because of the weather?
Well, look, there are two matches today. Fulham against Ipswich, which is 2 o'clock, and Liverpool v Man United, of course, at 4:30. Now, there'll have to be decisions made on those early, I would think. Now, coming through London, I went past Fulham's ground earlier on, and I would think that'll be all right. It's just wet.
Yeah.
It's just slush. It's just, if there was any snow overnight, it quickly melted. In the northwest, that's different. Now, the issue there is that ground is 2.5 times the size of Fulham, so it's about access around Liverpool. It's about whether it's not about the state of the pitch necessarily. Modern pitches can withstand even snow. They have undersoil heating. 2/3 of the actual fibre is plastic, so it shouldn't really be affected by snow, not in this day and age. But it's the access around, it's the parking, it's the transport links. But if the kick-off there is at 4:30, they're going to have to make a decision, I would think, by at the latest midday. Don't forget, for a match like that, which has a global profile, you're getting people coming from overseas. I would imagine nowadays 5% of that crowd today, which I think will be around about 60,000, will come from overseas.
Really?
Yeah, it's well served by, you've got the John Lennon Airport there. Manchester Airport is only 35 miles away. You could even conceivably get a flight into Birmingham or Leeds. So it's not, and plus there'll be some wealthy fans. You get private jets as well. You'd be amazed where people come from.
Wow.
To see these matches. So everybody has to be considered. And so, look, there's no inkling whatsoever that it's going to be off. But we didn't expect with the Merseyside derby a few weeks ago to be called off, and it was called off at relatively short notice, and it still hasn't been replayed. It'd be a good luck trying to get that on in this month, because the weather's looking quite inclement for a week or so from now, isn't it?
OK, well, let's hope the weather's good to the fans, particularly.
Yes, indeed.
How is Ruben Amorim doing?
How's he doing? Well, look, terribly. That's the honest truth. Listen, they had a wonderful win at Manchester City a few weeks ago. They won it in the last minute away from home. Now, if you'd said to him, OK, we're not going to tell you what your results are going to be in your first handful of games, but one result you will get is Man City away, and you'll win, and they rarely win there, or haven't done in recent years anyway, you'd probably say, actually, well, if you're capable of winning at Man City, then you're going to have a good start. But look at the other results. I mean, they lost 3-0 at home to Bournemouth for the second season running. They lost at Wolves, who are also struggling, 2-0. Newcastle went there and cruised to a 2-0 win last Monday. I mean, they took the foot off the gas after about 25 minutes because the job was done. They didn't feel any threat from Manchester United. Now, they go to Liverpool today. Liverpool have a huge incentive today to win, and because they're 5 points clear. Arsenal dropped points yesterday. They've played 2 games more than Arsenal. They win today. They go 8 points clear, with a game in hand. They've never known a situation like this, not even when they won the league in 2020. So it's not as if Liverpool don't have an incentive to win. I mean, even if Liverpool were bottom of the league, they'd have an incentive to win because it's against Man United and they're the bitter rivals.
That's right. And also you'd think, well, now's our chance anyway, because they're not doing so well.
Without doubt. And I think, look, again, Man United don't travel to Anfield particularly well. And he's been using apparently, according to the Sun anyway, on the back of the paper, it was saying that this morning that he's been using the example of Luke Littler to try and inspire his players on the training pitch. Now, it's funny, if you'd said to me when I was covering darts 20 years ago that Sir Alex Ferguson would use the example of Phil Taylor or Ray Barneville to inspire his players ahead of a match against Liverpool over the weekend, I said you're barking mad, quite frankly. But it appears to be what's happening. And he went onto the pitch, on the training pitch the other day. And what's interesting is I was told years ago by somebody who works at the training ground, who shall remain nameless, that United always trained in formation. You knew what the side was going to be in their final training session before travelling to an away game. So he would have been talking to the team that are going to play against Anfield this afternoon, and he was using that example and said, look, the guy was fearless. Luke Littler was fearless. He was the biggest game of his life.
It was about self-belief, I think. That's what Amorim was trying to channel.
Without doubt.
You need the same self-belief that Luke Littler had.
And look, they went to Man City and won. Liverpool are not in a better position than Man City right now, but it's a similar scale of fixture. It's still going away to a rival. It's not inconceivable that he'd get a result today, but the wider question is the job too big for him? I would think so far. It's only been a handful of games, and you have to remember how football is now, and it's like politics, right? You need instant results. Everything is short-term. He could be out on his ear in a month's time. If they lose another 4 games...
I've got the note here that he made the worst start of any United boss in 93 years. I mean, that's pretty awful.
Well, how long can it go on for? I mean, look, I want to give... Everyone wants to give the guy time, but you don't get that anymore. How many prime ministers have we had in the last 10 years? More than we had in the previous probably 30.
I don't know, but I think Keir Starmer will be feeling the same
Yes, he probably will. He probably will. But that short-termism is affecting all areas of society, nowhere more so than football. Dispensing with managers after a short period of time is not a new thing in football. It's been going. It was imported from the continent, where managers were just dispensable after a couple of bad results. Some of them didn't even deserve to get sacked. And we thought, we'll never have that culture here in England. But we've got it now. There's no question about that.
OK, Aidan, join us again a bit later, please. Let's move on to, well, sort of a £50,000 giveaway. Yes, it's our Great British giveaway, and it's the most we've ever given away. So have a go at it. Here's how.
Imagine.
Yeah, a lot of people getting in touch saying, if Stephen's in the building, he's taking his time to get to the studio, isn't he? Makeup. Do join us again in a couple of moments when probably Stephen will be here and we'll be looking through them. Here he is. Are you coming in? This is where you give away the fact that you're wearing a pair of jeans underneath. Oh, there's no seat for you. Terribly sorry about that. Yeah, OK. He's here at last, but we'll take a quick break and it'll be the papers soon.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there. It continues to remain unsettled across western parts of the Mediterranean, but fairly warm for the time of year, drier further east. Dry for Madeira though, temperatures 18 Celsius on Monday, but you can see unsettled weather across Portugal, Spain, southern France into Italy. Temperatures on the cool side, but drier towards Greece and Cyprus and Turkey as well. But temperatures here nearer to average for the time of year, but some pleasant sunny spells. Staying warm in Madeira for the next few days as well.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Phil Kearsey is bringing a new flavour to the Michelin-starred restaurant Pied à Terre as he becomes its new executive head chef. Customers can expect a menu that showcases modern British cooking accompanied by classical French roots, which uses hyper-seasonal ingredients. What are hyper-seasonal ingredients? That's an interesting phrase.
It's more about just reacting to the seasonality of everything. We like to change the menu all the time. So basically, I surround myself with the best suppliers, and they tell me what's amazing at the moment, and then we try and celebrate that in the restaurant in many different forms, using taste, texture, and technique, and just try and celebrate something as humble as a broccoli stem or a cauliflower, using absolutely everything, and making sure we've got an ever-changing menu. So letting the seasons dictate, so it's never boring and we never get menu fatigue.
OK, your career has taken you around the world a bit.
Yeah.
For example, you were in the United States. What did you learn there?
So, well, every chef I've worked for, it's about to take something from. A lot of chefs will go places and just stay in one establishment and get to the top, and then that's it. I've kind of then went to another chef to learn completely different things. That's the brilliant thing, to be able to surround myself with such amazing chefs throughout my career, because I've learned different things from all of them. And you find out 5 different ways to do something, and you find the way that you like it the best. And it's also about understanding it takes a while to understand how the restaurant is, going through the history of all these amazing chefs that have been before me, the style, because it needs to make sense. You wouldn't have a dish that should be at the Fat Duck and then a dish that should be at the Waterside, you know. You need to make sure that it all makes sense and it goes together with the decor, the service, the wine serving. And so we want to be the restaurant, not that does a little bit of everything, we want to be the best French restaurant in London, you know.
GB News, the People's Channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking, this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them. Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
Oh, no, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello.
About time, everybody's saying.
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of stick on your show this morning.
A lot of people saying you should have anticipated the bad weather and stayed overnight in London.
Can't do that.
Or just laying down on the floor out in the newsroom, apparently.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah, no, I love this place, but not that much. I've got a dog and a cat and husband to look after. Thanks very much indeed. Right, should we go through the papers?
I think we should.
Oh, it's better to do something. Emma Wolfe and Winston Davis are here. Good to see you this morning, you two. Morning. Let's have a look at the Observer, Emma, should we? Ministers want to relax restrictions on inmates in open prisons.
Yeah, well, this is another move to sort of ease overcrowding. In fact, it's an unannounced policy which was introduced by the Conservatives and has been expanded by Labour, and Labour are now considering whether to make it permanent. Basically, it means relaxing restrictions on inmates who can be sent to open prisons, releasing them, putting them onto open prisons earlier, so 5 years before their release date rather than 3, despite the risk and the evidence that there is a higher risk of violence, drug abuse and riots. The astonishing thing about this policy is even if inmates say to prison officers, I'm going to abscond, if you transfer me to an open prison, I'm going to abscond, they can't take action unless there is clear, unrefutable kind of evidence that they pose a threat. It just seems very, very odd. Obviously, we have an overcrowding problem.
You've been in the Nick, Winston.
I've been in the Nick and I've been in an open prison. And let me tell you, the privilege of being in an open prison, for me, I was like, I don't want to mess that up for nothing. All of a sudden, you've gone from maximum security to open. You're like, wow, I really want to be here and I really want to make this work. So when people are saying they're going to abscond and all that, then they can go back to closed conditions. The reality of it is this. You're talking about a 4 or 5 year sentence, Emma. 59% of all people coming to prison now are doing 12 months or less. Those people, the low offenders, say low offenders, no offence is a low offence, but the people doing shorter sentences shouldn't even be in prison. There was a 2019 report by the Minister of Justice which recommended that community orders and community sentences are much more effective in stopping reoffending and more rehabilitation. Reoffending costs us £18 billion a year. So this whole thing about, can we move into open jail? Well, a lot of us shouldn't be in prison. And I'm going to say his name, Tommy Robinson, is in a maximum security prison at the moment. He shouldn't even be there. He should be in an open prison. He should be, by the same principles that everybody else is run by.
What's the difference between... how does it feel different, moving from maximum security to an open prison?
Literally, you go from an officer with a key taking you around everywhere, to the toilet, to the wherever, to then all of a sudden you've got a key to your room, your hut, whatever it is, and you can go and get your food, and you can go and walk around and do your laps and do whatever you need to do. That's between 7 in the morning and 10 at night. You're out, and the privilege of that, of being there, like the majority of people do not want to lose that, and most people, I would count and say that most people actually want to be rehabilitated. Most people want to get out of prison. Most people want to see their family. Most people want to work. The challenge I always talk about is you've got to do the rehabilitation while they're in closed conditions. So you've got to do the training, the mental health work, all the other things which get them ready. And then when they're in an open prison, do your gas training, do your plumbing, your bricklaying, whatever it calls training is going to get you through to get out when you come out to be a...
The big question is who makes the decision on which offenders can be taken and in an open prison. And that's the problem, is do we trust them to make the right judgment?
Yeah, well,
there's too much bureaucracy in a way, you know, and people are too scared to be able to say what's the right and wrong thing that they can do.
Yeah. All right, let's have a look at Divorce Day in the Sunday Express, Winston.
Divorce Day,
January.
Yeah, January.
Spicy time for divorces.
Well, that's they say that's the sort of the myth that, you know, the first Monday back in January is the day where there's a spike in divorces. Actually, the figures are showing that divorces are going down. And divorces have been going down since from 2022. We had 80,000 divorces, which is a 30% drop on the year before, which is the lowest ever number since 1971.
Because no one can afford to get divorced, probably.
Well,
you cynic. It's because
love
is blossoming.
I am a cynic. No, I think people can't afford to pay for 2 properties and to pay each other, you know, kind of child maintenance and all of that stuff. So they're just sticking with it.
I'm with Stephen. I'm just going to say love is in the air. I mean, one interesting thing is said here is that a wife granting divorces have fell from 110,000 in 1986 to 70,000 in 2021, and like male husband divorces were down from 43.5 to 41.5, and that's a big disparity between the two. I'm not a mathematician, I don't know why or how, but Stephen can interpret that. No idea. But I just think it's positive. Maybe people are, you know, determined to stick at it and make it work, and perhaps... Still good you flashing your eyebrows.
I don't know. I know nothing about all this.
I'm all for it. Marriage.
I'm up for it.
I was engaged 5 times and I never made it down the aisle, so I'm just hugely relieved not to be ever having to get divorced.
Well, I'm
it doesn't sound fun.
12 years married this year.
That's lovely.
Yeah, and I'm, you know, 12.9 they say is the average, so I'm fighting through the year.
Yeah, you keep going.
7-year itch.
Yeah.
You keep going. Never mind all that.
Oh, negative Nelly over there.
How many years are you married, Stephen?
3.
Oh, there you go. You're still in the flesh of it.
Well, they say for same-sex marriages, 6.3 years is the average time. So we've got a few more years.
But tomorrow's meant to be the day when you finally had enough, because you've gone through Christmas and New Year.
Survived Christmas.
And tomorrow's the first working day for divorce lawyers, so everybody goes to the divorce lawyers, or at least rings them up on the first Monday in January, apparently.
Isn't it awful?
Sad, isn't it? But it is, however, Christmas Day tomorrow for the people of Fula Island in the Shetlands, because they are the remotest inhabited island of Great Britain, and they still go by the Julian calendar.
Yeah.
Really?
Isn't that fascinating?
Isn't it interesting?
And they say there's 30 of them go to one house and they exchange gifts and whatnot and have it all together.
And if you're watching us from Fula...
Is that the entire community? It's 30.
This is what I'm saying. It's about that. So happy Christmas to Fula. There we are.
Odd, and then when's New Year? In another week or so?
Yes, that's right, yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
If I was them, I'd just take 2.
Well, you could do.
I love Christmas and Christmas and
New
Year.
Well, it is Epiphany tomorrow, of course, isn't it?
Yeah.
So...
And it's, I think, taking down the trees day tomorrow, isn't it?
Ours is gone.
Yeah. Anyway, look, thank you both. See you later.
Merci beaucoup.
Let's have a look at the weather with Greg.
Despite the morning rain, it'll be a nice, warm, cosy day ahead. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast. A very unsettled day ahead. We've got heavy snow, also heavy rain, and some melting snow leading to the risk of some flooding in places. And we've got amber warnings in force across northern parts of the UK, from the Met Office heavy snow up to 40 centimetres possible across the higher routes, leading to disruption, some power outages as well. We also have heavy rain moving into parts of Wales with melting snow here. Could lead to some localised flooding. To the south of this, bright and breezy, but temperatures on the mild side, 13, 14 Celsius. But for the vast majority, a cold, icy day to come. And icy stretches quickly reforming across parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland as we move into the evening time. Further wintry showers moving in from the north across northern Scotland here. Could see some local icy stretches overnight into Monday morning as well. Wintry outbreaks across Northern Ireland and then heavy snow across northern England, southern Scotland, but rain to lower levels in places, and where we've had some snow, this continuing to melt, and then mild air pushing across the rest of England and Wales, but heavy rain as well moving its way eastwards as we head towards the early hours of Monday. Further snow across the north and the west into the early hours, so icy stretches reforming here and staying quite breezy, particularly in the east with further showers moving in. Temperatures in the north falling below freezing once more, but still mild across some southern counties of England and Wales, 4 or 5 degrees to start the day. This weather system slowly pushes into the near continent. Still the risk of some sleet and snow as it does so, brightening up for many as colder air then sinks southwards for everyone, and a cold afternoon to come on Monday. Sunny spells, wintry showers most frequent across the north, feeling cold again, temperatures in single figures across all parts of the country. See you again soon.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
50.
Headliners. Tomorrow's papers tonight, every night from 11 p.m.
The Daily Mail now, Josh, and pub landlords have to worry about more than the optics when it comes to offensive banter,
Yeah,
it
this
seems.
is a really big story and important. Pub landlords could have to become banter cops to stop themselves being sued by staff offended by comments from customers under workers' rights reform. So, Labour, when they were part of their election process, they were like, we're going to reform workers' rights, and that all sounds good on paper, but there were issues in terms of how might it affect employees and fear from employees costing them more money. One of these things that they're sort of pushing through, though, is that in the Equality Act of 2010, part of the issue was that if you were offended at work or someone said something sexist or racist, something that affected you, the employer had to take some sort of, they had three chances to kind of take action.
Yeah.
Now, the employer should have taken action already. So employees can sue employers. Now, this has a big impact on us because we're comics and we perform in venues. And if some of the bar staff hear a joke that they don't like, then they can sue their employer, potentially, under this legislation.
So it's not punters?
Well, also, it could be like you're at a bar and some bloke is like, oh, I like that top, or whatever. That's not good behaviour. But the point is now that employee could sue their employer.
So, because, I mean, the sort of scenario I was imagining was that a barmaid was being maybe sexually harassed or
That's
something.
what they're focusing in this article, but other articles have gone down the free speech route.
OK.
And also venues and universities having lectures. We saw it at, in Edinburgh Fringe Festival and Sadowitz. He had a show cancelled not because of any punters, but because two of the 18-year-olds were working. They were upset by his
There was
wedding.
a bar in Brighton, wasn't there? There was a story we covered a few weeks ago. A bar in Brighton threw some people out because...
exactly. They had turfs on the...
turfs. Yeah.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good morning to you. Widespread power cuts as the country braces for heavy snow and rare freezing rain.
More than 1,200 homes are without power right now. Runways are closed at Manchester and Liverpool airports.
Well, a second weather warning for snow issued late last night, covering most of northern England. It's going to remain in place until midnight tonight.
And as you can see there, GB News can exclusively reveal today that Keir Starmer ignored a Rotherham grooming gang whistleblower's complaint. Our reporter Charlie Peters will have the latest for you.
The Health Secretary has vowed to scrap more than 1 million of what he calls pointless NHS hospital appointments as he tries to cut waiting lists.
And Americans are saying goodbye to former President Jimmy Carter as his week-long state funeral begins.
It's 12th night tonight, or is it sort of tomorrow? It's all very confusing.
No, we think it's tonight.
Really?
Yeah. It's been worked out for us.
Has it? It's Epiphany tomorrow.
Yes.
Anyway, very confusing, but are you taking your tree down, getting ready for Epiphany tomorrow?
And as an NHS trust promotes veganuary in a push to boost diversity and inclusion, we're asking if that's really appropriate for the NHS to be doing.
Good morning. Teenage darts sensation Luke Littler has targeted Phil the Power Taylor's record of 16 world titles just 24 hours after becoming the youngest ever winner of the event. In the Premier League, meanwhile, we'll look ahead to Manchester United's visit to Liverpool.
Good morning. A disruptive start to the day. Amber warnings for snow and ice across parts of the UK. Stay tuned to the forecast with all the details coming up soon.
It's just gone 7 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
And I'm Ann Diamond, and this is GB News Breakfast.
Well, the weather outside is frightful.
Yeah, it really is.
So don't go anywhere.
No, and it's interesting, Aidan, you were saying, less than an hour ago, that you hoped those fixtures would go ahead, but now we hear that Liverpool and Manchester Airport, are closed.
Yes, I mean, that's... I don't know if it'll be a game changer, because I'm not sure enough of the... I mean, don't get me wrong, there'll be a lot of people travelling from overseas and from taking flights, even domestically, to that game. But I don't know if it'll be enough to call the game off. I mean, you've got to remember these two clubs are the two biggest clubs in England. They've got a global fan base combined of probably not too far shy of 2 billion. So lots of people do come from overseas. I don't know if it'll be enough to affect whether the game goes ahead. And don't forget, it's 4:30 as well, so we've got a little bit of time.
Well, it all depends on quite where you are and what the weather's doing at the moment, doesn't it? You've been sending some of your pictures in. Thank you very much indeed. This is from Dean in Barnsley.
Let's have a look.
Let's have a look.
It's coming, it's coming. Ooh.
Oh, I can't work out what that is.
That's a picture taken from an upstairs window.
Taking them out of space.
And that's the back, or the front garden, by the look of it.
That's good.
There you go.
Yeah, that's from Dean in Barnsley then.
There you go. So
and then
very
this
snowy.
next one is from Stephen in Polton-le-Field. That's an interesting name of a place. I've never heard of
Polton?
it. Polton-le-Field.
I know Polton.
Oh. And
very
this
nice
one is from Derek in Lytham in Lancashire. Is it Lytham or
It'll be Lytham.
Lytham, lovely place.
Oh, well, there you go. It's they know half these people. Very beautiful places. Kay in Doncaster. I mean, it looks like a winter wonderland in your back garden, Kay. Snow everywhere.
This from Bill in Newton Aycliffe in County Durham. Oh, that looks very pretty.
They all look like Christmas cards.
Yes, they do.
Very nice. The nice thing is if you can look at that and not have to venture out.
Yes.
You went to Newton Aycliffe to interview the Prime Minister, didn't you, last year?
Yes. Yes, I did. Yeah. Oh, it's all these places I've been to. You following me around, as in Polton not long ago and as in Lytham just a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
There you go. It
Yeah.
didn't look like that when I was there.
But continue sending them in, please, because as the light increases, we'll be able to see a bit of colour as well. As you say, they look very sepia-like, old-fashioned photographs.
They do. I tell you, it is not a day for getting out, though, and particularly if you're suffering from the power cuts, that's horrific, because there are plenty of power cuts, there are cancelled flights, travel chaos across the nation, of course. 2 amber weather warnings issued now by the Met Office.
And the breaking news is, just in the last few minutes, we've heard that Manchester Airport and Liverpool John Lennon Airport have temporarily closed their runways because of snow.
Well, if you're in a rural community, you're being warned you could be cut off in some places because of the weather. Some areas facing up to a foot of snow, and it comes as the UK grapples with a week-long spell of wintry conditions.
We're joined now by meteorologist Jim Dale. Morning, Jim.
Good morning, guys.
Hello. Where are you, and have you got snow?
I'm in High Wycombe, and we've got a tiny bit, a little bit. didn't really expect too much more here, but certainly further north, it's well, let's just say that the weather forecast that we've known now for some time have been more or less spot on in terms of what people are getting and where they're getting it. So that amber warning that's out there for the snow, you know, it really is. And you just mentioned Liverpool and Manchester airports closing, Birmingham earlier. Last night it was Bristol. So all of these things are coming together in the way that we thought they would come together, which is great in one way and very hazardous, obviously, in another. There we go.
Yeah, what about this? Because it is concerning, freezing rain, apparently.
Yeah, I'll tell you what freezing rain is. This is, and it basically you've got to have ground conditions at freezing levels. That's where it is. Now, what happens is it's not snow, it's supercool droplets that fall. Let's call that rain, but they're very cold rain. They hit the ground and they freeze on impact. And what happens is your pathways, your roads, they turn into an ice skating ring. So it's extremely dangerous. And we have got rain in the mix. Obviously, southern counties at this moment in time have got the rain. And as well as that, quite cold into the London area and around about, much less cold down into Cornwall. So 13 degrees in Cornwall at this moment in time in the far west. If you go north, Lake Glasgonock, they're minus 11. So you can see that the two different air masses here that are competing, the red and the blue, clashing, and the centre of that, where they're most clash, is where the biggest snow is. So, you know, there are plenty hazards out there beyond the snow. So, and as you've mentioned, this doesn't just stop today. There's plenty of time, because what's going to happen is the next 24 hours, you're going to see this low pressure system go out into the North Sea. And the backside of that is going to bring all that cold air over Scotland, northern Scotland, down into the rest of England and Wales. So, you know, we're far from over for winter, and you're going to see those perilous temperatures replay themselves time after time after time as we go through this current week coming.
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
And it's going to go on for a bit longer, as you say. Is it going to get more frozen, or is it just going to sort of gradually dissipate?
I think we're going to see. Well, for example, my expectation is that parts of Scotland, the Glens, you're going to see minus 15 and 16 quite comfortably, and certain parts of Wales and the frost laws of England, minus 6, minus 7, minus 8. I don't think that's a problem. I mean, the weather will improve to a degree in terms of plenty of sunshine, but you get the clear nights and the polar fronts all the way through us again by this time tomorrow. So that means we're in the polar air and we're staying it for at least another week. So as I just go back to where I started, everything's going to plan as far as the forecasts are concerned. It's now down to local authorities, government, individuals, make that absolutely clear, to do the right thing in these kind of weather. Because let's make it clear, these hazards are out there, can be very dangerous, as we know. And if you do the right thing, you will stay safe. If you don't, and if you're blasé, if you ignore the warnings, you put yourself in problem street. So that's my little words for this morning as far as viewers are concerned.
Yeah, lovely. Jim, thanks very much indeed. Well, look, if you do have to head out first thing this morning, then just be careful. I'll tell you what, double the journey time you were planning at the moment, because the roads are very slow, and when there is snow on the road, actually, it's gone very hard, so it's very icy already.
Where I was, it was really slushy snow.
Was it? Oh.
And that made it was very slippery to drive in.
Even on the M1, the snow was very hard and crunchy.
Oh.
So
but if you're anywhere where it's looking pretty, take a picture for us and send it in. Please do. gbviews@gbnews.com.
And then stay in the house.
Yeah. Anthony says, Manchester and Liverpool airport closed due to heavy snow. Really, how do other countries cope? We landed in New York in a blizzard. We had a snowplow in front of the aircraft and the airport was never closed.
Yeah, but they're more prepared for it because they have a lot more snow more regularly than we do.
Yeah, but we knew the snow was coming.
I mean, I know, I'm trying to be...
I don't think the airports will be closed for long. I think they're probably just closing the runways while they get them completely clear.
I mean, I did notice, Remy, there'd been no gritting or anything at all.
Oh, no, well, I was travelling behind a gritter, but it wasn't gritting very much.
No, well... Anyway, let's move on to health, should we? Because the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, has said patients feel powerless and the NHS is stuck in the age of one-size-fits-all.
His comments come as the government outlines its plans to cut waiting lists and to move the NHS into what he calls the digital age.
Some of the changes include upgrades to the NHS app, allowing you to receive test results and book follow-up appointments.
Well, the Health Secretary also says that he hopes the plans will allow working-class patients to receive the same choice, control and convenience as the wealthy.
Well, sounds great, doesn't it? Let's talk to political correspondent for The Spectator, James Heal. Good morning.
Good morning, Stephen.
Sounds fantastic.
Absolutely.
Is it deliverable?
I think it's going to be a very challenging ask, which is, of course, the big question for this government, which has put so much money in, 22 billion in that first Rachel Reeves budget, that tax hiking budget, was all about improving standards in the NHS. And Labour's big bet is that in 3 to 4 years' time, we're going to see improvements in the NHS. Now, are we going to see the kind of improvement that Wes Streeting is talking about? I think that's very unlikely because, you know, frankly, these things take decades to turn around. You have the NHS is a bit like a super tanker. God knows how many governments have tried with that. But they clearly want to see a sort of drop in the terms of waiting list, which is now up to 7.5 million people. And that you were just talking at the top of the package about, you know, the winter. The NHS is already warning about this seeing an increase in the number of A&E people being admitted who have slipped over on the ice. Flu emissions are up twice what they were a year ago, and it's going to be very difficult to turn around because it'll probably be 2-3 years when we'll see any effect from this investment going in.
I wonder what patients are going to think as well of this idea of letting of apps take over and wearing smart watches to sort of help diagnose illnesses or at least keep an eye on things. One of our viewers, Andrew, morning Andrew, said, Anne, when you were talking about the NHS app a while ago, you seem to have failed to mention how my mum and my 97-year-old aunt will be taught this brilliant new NHS app. We have a large and ageing population. They're the ones that need the help. But he said, in my case, they both stand quietly, dignified and without complaint at the back of the queue, whilst younger people and relatively healthy illegal aliens occupy all the seats. I mean, it's just interesting, that point is that he clearly thinks, Wes Streeting, that new technology is an important part of what he wants to do with the NHS, but it may not be for everyone.
No, so Streeting's argument is that more people use the NHS app than Netflix, for instance. I think it's something like 8.5 million or something like that. After the pandemic, he argues that we had a huge number of people using those kind of digital resources, of course, remember sort of test and trace, etc. And then they think that those people are no longer using those kind of apps, and actually we do have a lot of people who are very digital savvy. Yes, there'll be some who in their 90s, etc. might struggle with that, but hopefully if they can kind of free up the backlog, that's what they're challenging with.
Yeah. What about this idea as well of getting rid of a whole load of appointments that people don't need?
Well, this is the thing. He says that millions of appointments every year are cancelled, not used properly. I think it's about using resources properly. It was something that Rishi Sunak's government struggled a lot with in trying to make sure that the appointments go into those who are needing it. And clearly it's going to be something that they use with digital, and AI is going to be a big thing for people like Peter Kyle, who's the Science Secretary, Wes Streeting is the Health Secretary. I think that's going to be a big push of the Labour government over the next 12 months, and there's an AI bill coming before Parliament. That's going to be the big legislative battle in the Commons.
It's interesting when we were talking about this earlier, when you look at the Mail on Sunday's poll, which predicts that Keir Starmer will be out within a year. Who is a likely contender for his position? They're not like the Tories, are they? The Tories will, you know, chop off the head of a leader if he doesn't sort of perform within weeks.
I think there's a lot more hand-wringing within Labour, and they sort of tend to go around the houses and then come back to where they were to start with. Labour, funnily enough, are a more Conservative party in some ways than the Conservatives, who have quite a sort of mercenary view of these things. But Wes Streeting would be one of them. And, of course, Wes Streeting has been handed this brief. To my knowledge, I believe that, you know, the post-war era, no health secretary's ever become Prime Minister. Maybe Wes Streeting will be the first one to do that. Yes, absolutely, because the last one was Neville Chamberlain in the 1920s.
Why is that?
I think it's because health has been...
Because the brief is so difficult to deliver.
Absolutely. And you may remember in the 1980s, John Moore was the Kennedy-esque future prince, great successor to Margaret Thatcher. And, of course, he got brought down by a number of things, including an NHS winter scandal. And he was one of many people who sort of fell by the wayside, which, of course, went to John Major eventually as the successor. Health is just such a difficult brief because it is something where everyone has such high demands. It typically is something we don't invest enough, according to the experts. And, you know, frankly, there's lots of problems, a bit like the Home Office, which is why it's sort of seen as a graveyard department.
Oh, isn't it odd? But the idea that a Prime Minister who came to power with this massive majority, super majority, what is it, 170?
Something like that, 177, I think, Pyongyang levels.
Could find himself being turfed out, you know, within 18 months, 2 years of taking office, is incredible.
But this is the whole point about Labour, which is that they got it on 32.7% of the vote. People feel that they didn't have a compelling vision for change. They didn't have a sort of intellectual headwind behind them like New Labour did in the 1990s with sort of Third Way, etc. And I think that with the Labour, there's more similarities between him and Boris Johnson than some would care to admit. They have quite a sort of transactional relationship in terms of the MP's loyalty. Yes, he got them in, but they can also kick him out. And so I think that the danger for Keir Starmer is that those kind of whispers, which are currently had in very few conversations in the Labour Party right now, in 12 months' time become a loud crescendo.
Just still makes you wonder why people go into politics at all. It's so unforgiving, isn't it?
Absolutely.
James, thanks very much.
Thank you both.
And you're forgiven for breaking the coffee machine.
Is that what
Yeah, I'm to blame. Yeah.
When I got in and was desperate for a coffee, I found out that James had unplugged the machine, which takes about 20 minutes to reset.
I know. Sorry about that.
To charge his phone.
So this is my last appearance on GB News.
Get out. Thank you very much.
Pleasure, thank you.
Crumbs.
I know.
Right, our poll of the day. Today we're asking, as the war of words between Nigel Farage and Kemi Badenoch intensifies, here's the question. Do you believe Reform can beat the Conservatives in key election battlegrounds? We'll bring you the live results throughout the day, as ever, so make sure you stay tuned. Final result will be announced later in Nana Akwia's show. And if you want to know any more, particularly on how to take part in that vote, go to gbnews.com/poll.
Now, a week-long state funeral for former President Jimmy Carter has begun.
Last night and into the early hours of this morning, there was a motorcade with his coffin making its way to the Carter Presidential Library in Atlanta.
There, his son, Chip, reflected on his life.
He was an amazing man, and he was held up and propped up and soothed by an amazing woman. And the two of them together changed the world. And it was an amazing thing to watch from so close and to be able to be involved in.
Let's talk to Chairman of Republican Overseas UK, Greg Swenson. Morning to you, Greg.
Good morning.
How do you remember Jimmy Carter?
It was a very difficult time in America, so I think those of us who can remember when he was president reflect on that period as the time as the speech that he gave in '79 was described, the malaise speech. He never actually used the word in the speech, but it was described and labeled as the malaise speech because it was such a depressing and challenging time for the country. So I think, those of us who remember his White House days will think of Jimmy Carter as a failed president, whereas his post-White House days will be reflected on in a much more positive way.
Which is fascinating that someone who, as you say, had, perhaps not an impressive term as president, actually went on to do some really impressive things.
Yeah, I think, Habitat for Humanity, the home building project that he launched and stayed with it till the very end. I mean, I think I saw a photo of him in the last few years working on a home building site. So that's probably what he'll be remembered for most. He also became an election watcher, I'll call it. He traveled around the world to observe elections and make sure that they were free and fair. Now, he made some mistakes along the way. He said that the Nicaraguan election was, the fairest of all time, and Manuel Noriega was the winner. But I think he aligned with Jimmy Carter on politically, in a way, with the tax and spend kind of leftist socialism that he encouraged. And I think you'll see a lot of similarities comparisons between Carter and Biden. They were both tax and spend liberals, but also both failures as presidents. And
yes, although universally acknowledged as good men.
Yeah, I think Carter for sure will be remembered as a good man, and I think he was. He brought Christianity back to the White House. He was an evangelical Christian, and he was very open about it, and that was new in 1976 when he became president. And so I think with Biden, on the other hand, will be remembered not only as a failed president, but as somewhat of a compromised or corrupt president, but when he was vice president, with the influence peddling and with his son. So, I don't think Biden will be remembered quite as fondly as Jimmy Carter. I don't think so. And the other thing to keep in mind is, Jimmy Carter didn't create a lot of the problems. He inherited inflation from Nixon. I blame Nixon for that. He inherited some hostility across the globe. I don't blame him necessarily for the Soviets being so aggressive at that time. You know, maybe there was some appeasement in there with Carter, that's similar to what we saw with Biden. But Biden created the problems.
Why did he not serve a second term? Why did he lose the second term?
Because of inflation and because of American weakness in the world. And very similar to Biden, by the way. But Jimmy Carter, I mean, he lost 44 states to a challenger. So he was the incumbent president. Yeah. If that's the way to judge a president or a term, 44 states, he lost the Electoral College 489 to 89. It was a massive landslide. The only reason people don't remember how badly he was beaten in 1980 is because Reagan went on to win 49 states in 1984. So we can thank Walter Mondale, or Jimmy Carter should thank Walter Mondale. And I think, but the other thing that Carter did, which I thought was impressive, he didn't get much credit for it because it was too late. He changed at the end of his term. He started deregulation. He deregulated airlines, trucking, rails. That really set up Reagan rather well because Reagan continued and really deregulated, which was associated with Reagan when in fact Jimmy Carter started it. He also increased defense spending, again, too little, too late. But when the Soviets invaded Afghanistan, he actually ratcheted up defense spending. You can thank Jimmy Carter for Patriot missiles, for example. And then he appointed Paul Volcker as the Fed chairman. And Volcker is more associated with Reagan because he brought down inflation by really attacking it with higher rates. And Reagan gets the credit for it. So at least Carter, instead of just rolling over and saying, okay, I failed, let's let the country slide even more, he actually addressed those three issues. Whereas Biden is just bitter. He's really angry right now, and he's doing these things. He's got 17 days left, 16 days left in his term, and he's doing these ridiculous, letting all these criminals off the hook with especially starting with Hunter, his son, and so and he's giving a presidential medal to George Soros. I mean, he's really going down as looking like a really bitter and angry president.
Okay,
unlike Carter.
Unlike Carter, yeah. No, it's interesting, isn't it, that legacy that he's left behind, which is mainly post-presidential. Right. Really good to see you, Greg.
Thanks for having me. Good to be here.
OK, well, we've been talking about the weather all morning, for which we can't apologise because it's important that you know the facts, I guess. So let's get more from Greg Dewhurst.
A chilly start will give way to a lovely, warm afternoon. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast. A very unsettled day ahead. We've got heavy snow, also heavy rain, and some melting snow leading to the risk of some flooding in places. And we've got amber warnings in force across northern parts of the UK, from the Met Office heavy snow up to 40 centimetres possible across the higher routes, leading to disruption, some power outages as well. We also have heavy rain moving into parts of Wales with melting snow here. Could lead to some localised flooding. To the south of this, bright and breezy, but temperatures on the mild side, 13, 14 Celsius. But for the vast majority, a cold, icy day to come. And icy stretches quickly reforming across parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland as we move into the evening time. Further wintry showers moving in from the north across northern Scotland here. Could see some local icy stretches overnight into Monday morning as well. Wintry outbreaks across Northern Ireland, and then heavy snow across northern England, southern Scotland, but rain to lower levels in places, and where we've had some snow, this continuing to melt, and then mild air pushing across the rest of England and Wales, but heavy rain as well moving its way eastwards as we head towards the early hours of Monday. Further snow across the north and the west into the early hours, so icy stretches reforming here, and staying quite breezy, particularly in the east, with further showers moving in. Temperatures in the north falling below freezing once more, but still mild across some southern counties of England and Wales, 4 or 5 degrees to start the day. This weather system slowly pushes into the near continent. Still the risk of some sleet and snow as it does so, brightening up for many as colder air then sinks southwards for everyone, and a cold afternoon to come on Monday. Sunny spells, wintry showers most frequent across the north, feeling cold again, temperatures in single figures across all parts of the country. See you again soon.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Now, how do you fancy £50,000 to kick off 2025? Well, it could be yours, tax-free, in our Great British Giveaway. Here's how you enter.
Imagine
And do stay with us, because still to come, an NHS trust is taking part in veganuary to improve diversity in the workplace. I don't sort of get that, but we'll find out. We'll debate that in just a couple of moments.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your-say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Australian chef David Thompson is opening a new restaurant, Long Chim. The name, which translates roughly as come and try, already has locations in Sydney, Perth and Dubai, and previously operated in Melbourne and Singapore. It marks a return to London for Thompson, whose Belgravia haunt Naarm closed in 2012. But that earned him accolades, including, in 2002, the first Michelin star awarded to a Thai restaurant. So you've mentioned Bangkok there. What is your love for Thai food? Describe to us why you think Thai food is such a great cuisine.
It's endlessly complex and satisfying. It just resonates on the palate. For me, as a cook, it offers a challenge. And the way that you cook it is you chase taste. You don't follow a recipe, you follow your sense of taste. And so with all these dishes that you'll taste today, but also in the restaurant that we're opening, it's all about a sequence of taste and seasoning that has some balance.
What is this dish?
This is something called gengari gung, which is an aromatic curry of prawns.
Lovely looking prawns, yes.
They're not too bad. And it's with something strange called water bamboo, which we found up in Chinatown just the other day. And it's a perfect accompaniment. I'll just take a little.
Yes. Describe that perfect accompaniment to me again. Water
bamboo.
What is it? Water bamboo, yeah.
And you would not know of it, because I didn't know of it that much either. And it tastes like a little bit of like young coconut meat. So it's perfect with these prawns and this curry. And what you need to have with this curry, because this is the way that Thai food works, an interplay of flavours, this little cucumber salad on the side, and that helps to bring out the spice and the sweetness and the savoury quality.
I must say, all of this looks so lovely.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Thank you, Britain.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks for subscribing.
Thank you for your support.
It's you that make us the People's Channel.
As we reflect on our journey so far, we're filled with immense gratitude.
You mean the world to us. We couldn't have reached this point without you.
As a very special thank you, we are giving you the chance to win one of 50 GB News thank you boxes. They're worth £50 each.
For full terms and conditions, and to enter, just go to gbnews.com/thank you.
$7.29. Now, an NHS trust is taking part in veganuary to help promote diversity and inclusion in the workplace.
The Wirral Community Health and Care Trust added that they were promoting the ethics, wider health and well-being benefits and the environmental impact of veganism.
Staff and patients will be encouraged to adopt the plant-based lifestyle, despite experts warning that some vegan diets can come with health risks.
So given this, we're asking, should the NHS be promoting veganuary?
Let's talk to the founder of Viva, Juliet Gelatly, who believes it should, and Director of External Affairs at the Countryside Alliance, Mo Metcalf-Fisher, who doesn't agree. Juliet, can we start with you? Look, if people want to do veganuary, that's all well and good, but it shouldn't be forced on people, should it? Or even strongly suggested by something like the NHS?
It's not being forced on anybody. People can choose in the Wirral or any other NH trust that gets involved whether they want to partake or not. What they're doing are promoting the benefits of a vegan diet. Now, you imagine you're the NHS trust. You've got one person dying every 3 minutes from heart disease, and vegans get much less high blood pressure, much less heart disease than do meat eaters. So surely, if your job is to promote health, then you should let people know these kind of stats. Vegans get less cancer. Red meat is a class 1 carcinogen, classed by the World Health Organization as processed meat definitely causes cancer of the bowel. So it's just letting people know what the health advantages are of reducing or taking meat completely out of your diet and becoming vegan. You get less diabetes type 2, which is a big problem in the UK, less heart disease, as I've said, less deaths from stroke, and around 1/5 less of all cancers. These are very impressive stats. Imagine it was drugs that had that kind of impact. People would be hailing it and going, wow, this is amazing. So it's just giving people the choice to eat the best that they possibly can. And just the NHS also has a job now to reduce, like all workplaces, to reduce their impact on the environment. And they're extremely aware that vegan diets are much less damaging in terms of greenhouse gas emissions and wildlife losses as well. So, this is 2025. The workplace has to move to try and protect our environment as well as our health and, of course, the animals themselves.
OK, Mo, does that argument impress you?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't at all, actually. I don't think that the NHS or any other public body that's a taxpayer-funded organisation or institution should be getting behind a campaign, veganuary in this case, which calls for the end of animal farming, or in other words, livestock farming. I think that's a deeply deranged political position to take, and I don't think that the NHS or the taxpayers, myself included, and the vast bulk of people in this country who consume meat and dairy as part of a balanced diet, want to see the NHS getting involved in that. What the NHS should be doing is promoting our brilliant British farmers, whether that's arable or livestock, and sourcing sustainable produce regardless of whether it's meat, dairy and vegetables. And, to call it about diversity and inclusion, I just think that's a load of nonsense. And one of the good things about this year's veganuary campaign, I will say, is it's actually down on public bodies. So last year there was several local councils that were getting involved. This year, I can only scratch find one, and that's a pretty half-cocked effort. So there is some good signs coming out of this. I think there's a lot of love for our farmers right now, and there should always be love for freedom of choice in food. So I hope that this is a move away by public bodies from this compulsory veganism. Look, your speaker from Viva, which is a very hardline animal rights organisation, attempts to talk about the environment and other issues, but really this to them is about animal rights. They don't believe in a world where we should use animals. I completely disagree with the Speaker. I respect her right to say that, of course, but I completely disagree. And that's why the NHS and public bodies just shouldn't be getting involved in things that are so controversial. I think they should just be about patients and delivering the produce that best fits the diets of those patients.
All right, well, sadly, we're out of time, you two. We could go on for ages on this one, but thank you both. Juliet, Mo, appreciate your views. Thank you very much indeed. It is the diversity and inclusion thing I have an issue with more than anything
it's
else.
those words.
It's just odd.
What?
And, you know, and as Mo quite rightly said, Juliet and Viva are entitled to their opinion. Of course they are. And if you want to be a vegan, be a vegan. I've been vegetarian for 45 years. But I wouldn't want to force it or suggest that anybody else should do it, or it's just what I decide to do.
It's happening anyway, isn't it?
Yeah.
I was saying yesterday, wherever you go now, I mean, even airline food, there's a vegan option. There's lots more vegan food in every supermarket you go in, and it's happening anyway. So let it happen without sort of trying to always influence people in a very worthy way. I suppose that's what people don't like.
Spending taxpayers' money, most of whom probably eat meat.
Mm-hmm.
Well. I know.
I tell you what, I know it's winter and you get snow in winter. There's so many people pointing out, why are you sort of saying it's news? Because it is news. It's affecting the way we're going to live our Sunday today and probably a couple of days next week too. So I think it's perfectly worthwhile to talk about the snow. But from a nicer point of view, if you've got lovely pictures to send us of your snowy area, then please do to gbviews@gbnews.com. And remember to tell us where it is that you're taking the photograph so that we can get a sense of going around the country.
Yes, absolutely. Right, still to come, we're going to have all the sport. More on Loot Litter and Littler, in fact, with Aidan McGee. That's next.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain's Newsroom, weekday mornings from 9:30.
A Tesco store on a Scottish island has defied locals by ignoring pleas to stay closed on Sundays.
Tesco's has said that no member of staff in Stornoway would be forced to work on a Sunday and that it had received a significant amount of positive reaction to its plans.
Well, let's talk now to the Minister of the Reformed Presbyterian Church, Reverend Kenneth Stewart. Good morning to you, Reverend Stewart. You're trying to keep Sunday special, and if Tesco are going to open up, that means it won't be quite as special for you.
Well, yes, good morning, and thanks for having me on. Yes, Tesco, for some reason, they claim it's not economic advantage, but for some reason they've decided to go against hundreds of years of tradition on this island and the deeply held religious convictions of many, many people, including, of course, their own customers who are really grieved by this decision. We come obviously from the standpoint that a day of rest is effectively mandatory. It's a human right, along with the other 10 commandments which have undergirded our moral and legal fabric in society. It actually enshrines the human right to a day of rest. And of course, in the UK, that's been eroded for many, many years. Incidentally, it's still far more respected on the continent. But for us here, the Sabbath or the day of rest has been very, very important. It's not just what we do, it's who we are. And for some reason, Tesco have decided just to go against that.
And Reverend Stewart, we were actually talking about this earlier, how in European countries, I mean, even in France, which is a secular country, still very few shops will open on a Sunday.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect And then you throw me into the mix, and trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Right, let's go through the sport at 7:39 with Aidan McGee. Good morning. Mr. Littler.
Yes.
Legend what he is.
Yes.
Fancy beat... He wants to beat Phil the Power Taylor's record.
Yeah, well, I mean...
Which is going to take some doing.
Well, it is. I mean, you know, Phil the Power Taylor set a phenomenal level of consistency, 16 titles. I think his first one, was in 1990 when it was the BDO. So I think he won his first 3 there, and then when it became the breakaway PDC, he then added another 13 there. So I think we worked out something like if he wins one every other year, Luke Littler, he could match it by the time he gets to 50, 49, I think it was. We worked it out. But it's quite possible, while he's in such a rich vein of form and he's winning everything before him, why couldn't he get 5 or 6 in a row? And it's not a race anyway to see. I mean, Phil Taylor didn't win 16 by the time he was 49. He was probably in his...
But we were talking earlier about the fact that he had self-belief, and that's maybe why he's done so well so young.
Exactly.
And if you have self-belief, I guess, and talent,
without doubt,
mixture of the two.
But Barry Hearn has warned that the next generation of darts players, some of them 1 or 2 years older than Luke Littler, even, are going to, in his words, knock your teeth out, because this JDC system they've got, where they're getting players at a much younger age, they're not relying on the pub scene to produce the players anymore. They're getting them at 14, 15. And if the prize money, as we understand it, is going to be £1 million next year, then more and more kids are going to look at it as a viable career, aren't they? Because they're going to think it's going to draw more people in. And so when the pool gets bigger... I mean, look, you look at the World Cups in football and rugby that happened back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. I mean, they're much smaller as a pool than they are now, so it will get more competitive. So it's going to get harder for the likes of Luke Littler to be successful. But while the going's good, why should we target the best?
He'll stay at the top of his game.
Do you think so?
Well, the very fact that Ruben Amorim's using him as inspiration for the Man United team against their game against Liverpool,
yes,
if it happens.
Yes, I know. Well, Luke Littler said that he got a message from David Beckham as well to his phone, congratulating him, as well as the Prime Minister.
Oh.
But he wants to parade...
I wonder which he valued more.
Pardon?
I wonder which he valued more.
I think David Beckham probably. But... It's nice to get messages from two Knights of the Realm, though, isn't it? I suppose that this.
No, David Beckham isn't.
Of course he isn't. No, but he soon will be. He soon will be. I'm sure he will be.
Don't rub it in.
No, I won't. So, look, I think he wants to parade the trophy at Old Trafford, and I think that probably will happen in the next couple of weeks or so. But obviously, United have got that trip to Liverpool today. But yeah, Ruben Amorim was using it as motivation for his players apparently this week on the training pitch, and saying, look, this guy went into the cauldron. It was the most pressurised environment of his career, and he delivered in a big way.
He said to them, Luke was unstoppable because he was determined to win.
Yes.
And that's the message he's trying to get through to his team.
Well, he's got to say something, because they're not in a rich vein of form right now. They beat Everton in their first game. They won at Manchester City, which was a fantastic result. But goodness me, home defeats to Newcastle 2-0, Bournemouth 3-0, a 2-0 defeat away to Wolves, and who weren't doing particularly well at the time. Still not really. They're still down the bottom reaches of the Premier League. So they've got a big ask on today, and Liverpool have got a huge incentive, Stephen, to go and win that. I mean, they're already 5 points clear with 2 games in hand. If they can extend that lead by beating one of their biggest rival, actually, the biggest rival in their history, then that gives them an extra focus, doesn't it?
Yeah, certainly does. Aidan, thank you very much indeed.
And don't go away, or at least don't go far, because we'll be back in a couple of moments with the papers.
Yeah, first, though, here's the forecast for some of the top European holiday destinations if you fancy a bit of winter sun.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast. A very unsettled day ahead. We've got heavy snow, also heavy rain, and some melting snow leading to the risk of some flooding in places. And we've got amber warnings in force across northern parts of the UK, from the Met Office, heavy snow up to 40 centimetres possible across the higher routes, leading to disruption, some power outages as well. We also have heavy rain moving into parts of Wales, with melting snow here could lead to...
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Will, please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons,
Very, very curious.
we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
3 incredible young people from Essex are planning to become the youngest people ever to row, not sail, row, across the Atlantic Ocean.
It's about for 3,000 miles.
It is.
Give or take.
Almost exactly that, Sam.
The 3 flying fish, so-called, consists of Anna, Dunk, Harry, Alan and Rowan Daly, who are preparing to row that 3,000 miles across the Atlantic. It would be the 2nd largest ocean in the world. And the trio are aiming to do that challenge in support of the Teenage Cancer Trust.
Well, I'm very pleased to say that Anna and Harry from the Flying Fish join us now. Very good morning to both of you.
Guys.
Morning.
I think the 2 of you are bonkers, but brilliant. Absolutely incredible what you're doing to raise money for Teenage Cancer Trust. Why did you want to do this?
So our third person, Rowan, his friend actually died. So when he was in secondary school, I believe, one of his peers passed away, and Teenage Cancer Trust supported them and their family a lot. So it was definitely the right charity. Yeah, it was.
Absolutely awful. So you wanted to do something to raise money for teenage cancer. Why rowing?
So my dad did it in 2021.
The trip, the Atlantic trip?
Yeah, he rowed it as a pair. Where we live in Essex, they actually build the boats there. So we used to cycle round there past the boatyard, and he got interested and actually did it. He was the first year after COVID. And one night, we all met in the Air Cadets, so one night after Air Cadets, Rowan actually dropped me off home and the boat was outside. We were obviously waiting to get it sold. And I think he was asking some questions, and we stood there at my porch and went, Rowan said, I reckon we could do that. And I was like, yeah, I reckon we could. And then we brought Harry on board, and that's kind of how it all came together.
If people are watching and they want to support you, do you have a
Yeah, we've got
GoFundMe page
social
yet?
media platforms at the Free Flying Fish. That's Facebook, Instagram and TikTok, and our GoFundMe links in all of the bios on there.
Fantastic.
GB News, the People's Channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there short and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Right, let's go through the papers at 7:47 with Emma Wolfe and Winston Davis. Good morning, you two. In the bleak midwinter, says the Sunday Express.
Yes, guess what? Do we say this every winter? We do.
Yes,
but
we
the
do.
NHS is braced for a perfect storm. Everybody seems to be ill at the moment. Everybody seems to have this virus that's going around, whether we call it the quademic or the metapneumovirus from China, which we may get onto later. But anyway, yeah, really, really not a good time. Appalling weather as well, of course, is adding to an already very, very under pressure NHS system. A&E is people are waiting hours and hours, and then the surge in viruses with the appalling weather. Experts are warning that there could be 14,000 excess deaths or extra deaths. I think also, the fear about people keeping warm and the fuel bills and all of that. We've had some really upsetting reports of sort of pensioners being found with frostbite and freezing to death and things like that. So it's not looking good at all.
Doesn't make us sound very civilised, does it?
No, I mean, they've got 340 emergency calls were left unanswered, with over half of ambulances stuck outside hospitals waiting to transfer patients.
You have older people who can't be released, can't go home because they need basic social care. They are effectively bed blocking. And you end up with this really, really awful situation.
That's
not good. Well, meanwhile, the Sunday Times saying, Winston, that we should get, if we're referred to hospital for treatment, we should get a choice of 5 hospitals.
Yeah, look,
I don't want a choice. I just want to go somewhere good.
When I first started reading, I was thinking, what the heck is this all about? You know, you've got 5 choices. It's like literally just go wherever they tell you to go. I had emergency surgery in November. I didn't care where I went. Wherever it was, just keep me alive, OK? So I went. But what they're saying is that by giving choice, what it effectively is doing is making competition between different hospitals to make those that are more effective and efficient and reduce waiting times, that they will get more funding for, you know, equipment and whatever else. That's
to work.
I mean, something's got to change, isn't it? So if they put this as an initiative and it does work, fantastic. You know, they're saying that there's more people have downloaded the NHS app than have got Netflix accounts. And I've just downloaded it based on that. I didn't even know there was one. So I just was looking before I come on.
You didn't know there was an NHS app?
No.
It's brilliant.
I
it's
think
good. It's quite good.
Can I just say, Wes Streeting, he's talking about the like it or lump it culture where patients are sort of treated, you know, without much choice. And that's all well and good. And, you know, and Starmer is tomorrow launching his great plan to reduce waiting lists and give patients more choice. But I think, as you've all said, it's not really about... I don't want a choice of 5 hospitals. You just want to be treated swiftly, effectively, somewhere close by where your family can visit. Most of us, 5 hospitals, you just want the nearest one.
You just want
or even a bit further if you need to have an urgent cancer operation or surgery. You know, you will travel a bit further. But something rather than waiting on waiting lists.
Plus an assurance that whatever hospital you go to in this country, you're going to get the right level of care.
Within sort of 18 weeks and not within, you know, 6 months, 12 months.
Yeah, because they're saying they want this 92% of patients to be seen within 18 weeks. Currently in October, there was only 59% were seen. So they've got
you can be seen and nothing happens. You can often be seen and then you're just referred on for another 3-month wait. When's the last time someone said to you, I'd like a choice of 5 hospitals? That's not what we're asking for. We're asking for an NHS
100%.
that works.
100%.
Yeah. Can we have a talk? We're having a bit of a health theme. Chippenham in the sun.
Yes.
Emma.
This is funny, actually. Well, sorry, it's not funny if you live in Wiltshire. This Wiltshire town is the broken bone capital of the country. In Chippenham, you're more likely to go to...
Chippenham.
They Chippenham. Yeah. It has the highest percentage of A&E trips for fractures, nearly 2,885 trips last year for broken fingers, arms, legs, even fractured skulls.
I wonder why.
I wonder why in Chippenham. And do you know the place in the country with the lowest level of...
Go on.
Safest place?
Portsmouth.
Portsmouth has the fewest.
Fewest broken bones in the country. I mean, you really needed to know that this morning, didn't you?
Well, it's very hard.
Be careful. If you live in Chippenham, especially if it's icy today...
Yes, exactly.
Be careful. There's my health
Yeah.
advice.
Just before we finish on the health thing, Sue's been in touch about the vegan food thing. If we have a month of vegan food in hospital, she says, we should have a month of the vegans and vegetarians eating meat.
No, I'm not doing that. No, I'm not doing that.
I sort of think, well, look, fair play. I sort of think, fair play. If you're going to force it one way, force it the other.
You can't force us to eat meat.
You can't force anything, you know. I did the vegan diet for years, 5 years and whatever else, and then I got to the point and said, no, do you know what? I'm not going to do it anymore. But it's a choice, like you said earlier, it's a choice.
Yeah. Have we got... Oh, yeah, we have got time. Good. Winston, tell us about this 99-year-old lady anticipating her 100th birthday in July.
So a Centenarian planned to walk 200 miles for homeless charities to celebrate her 100th birthday.
200 miles?
200 miles. I mean...
Apparently she was going to say, it's my 100th birthday, so I'll walk 100 miles for charity. But she's already walked 80.
Oh.
So she realises she can set her sights higher.
I mean, that's very impressive. Very impressive.
Amazing. And didn't the lady who was 116 die yesterday?
Yes,
she did.
I mean, they're real age. It makes you wonder, would you like to live 160?
As long as you're well, if you're well enough to walk.
Quality of life.
It is, isn't it? Well, good on her. Phyllis, is it?
Yes, Phyllis.
Good on you,
She's
Phyllis.
99 and she's 100 in July.
Amazing.
Yeah, really well done.
Brilliant.
Fantastic.
I love that.
I tell you what, Emma, the name Tiggy Leg Book means a lot to those of us who are old enough to remember. I mean, Charles and Diana, when they were married, and the nanny, when they got divorced, Charles hired Tiggy to be the nanny to Wills and Harry. And Diana didn't like it at all, although she may have been fed false information about Tiggy. And what's happened?
So her stepson, Ed Pettifer, who was 31 years old, has been named as one of the victims of the New Year's Day sort of ISIS-inspired pickup truck ramming in New Orleans. So it was so shocking. And he is one of them, and that is the stepson of Tiggy Leg Book, who many will remember, as you say, the nanny
so the king and
William has posted on Kensington Palace social media accounts how very sad he is, and that apparently King Charles is also said to be very saddened by this. But yeah, no, William's put a personal message on his social media, just saying that their hearts are with them, and
with all of
very
the victims.
sad.
It's nice that they actually mentioned the other.
Of course, I think he was the only Brit.
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
Oh,
It sort of makes it more real, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Even more real.
Well, yeah, it's an awful thing. Let's hope
There were
they
some really
get some
young
proper
people,
answers.
obviously, out and about celebrating.
Yeah. All right, thank you both very much indeed.
Thank you.
Time for the weather. Here's Greg Dewhurst.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast. A very unsettled day ahead. We've got heavy snow, also heavy rain, and some melting snow leading to the risk of some flooding in places. And we've got amber warnings in force across northern parts of the UK, from the Met Office heavy snow up to 40 centimetres possible across the higher routes, leading to disruption, some power outages as well. We also have heavy rain moving into parts of Wales with melting snow here. Could lead to some localised flooding. To the south of this, bright and breezy, but temperatures on the mild side, 13, 14 Celsius. But for the vast majority, a cold, icy day to come, and icy stretches quickly reforming across parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland as we move into the evening time. Further wintry showers moving in from the north across northern Scotland here. Could see some local icy stretches overnight into Monday morning as well. Wintry outbreaks across Northern Ireland, and then heavy snow across northern England, southern Scotland, but rain to lower levels in places, and where we've had some snow, this continuing to melt, and then mild air pushing across the rest of England and Wales, but heavy rain as well moving its way eastwards as we head towards the early hours of Monday. Further snow across the north and the west into the early hours, so icy stretches reforming here, and staying quite breezy, particularly in the east, with further showers moving in. Temperatures in the north falling below freezing once more, but still mild across some southern counties of England and Wales, 4 or 5 degrees to start the day. This weather system slowly pushes into the near continent. Still the risk of some sleet and snow as it does so, brightening up for many as colder air then sinks southwards for everyone, and a cold afternoon to come on Monday. Sunny spells, wintry showers, showers most frequent across the north, feeling cold again, temperatures in single figures across all parts of the country. See you again soon.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Imagine good luck.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Christmas Canapé offers partygoers a small treat that staves off hunger and soaks up the fizz. Founder and host of Crazy Sexy Food, Hannah Harley-Young, joins me now with a toothsome selection. Lovely to see you, Hannah.
You too.
Origin of the word canapé?
Yes, French.
Sort of from the, yeah, of course, from sort of the 1800s. It means sofa. So it's sort of playing on the analogy of someone sitting or lying on a sofa. It is about the garnish, traditionally sitting on a piece of stale bread or pastry. Obviously, it's evolved over the years. I don't have any stale bread for you, don't worry. But the idea is that it's something sort of garnish, something exciting sitting on a vehicle that you can put in your mouth in 1 or 2 bites.
It's obviously post-war. What is it? Is it 60s or 70s? How long have we been eating these things?
I would say around about then. And I think what's interesting, I mean, I always look towards even the 80s, a little bit sort of later on, where it's, where you sort of have that, sort of the classic vol au vent, which was, you know, a little bit dry, a little bit tasteless. And I think that's why I've brought a real selection for you to show you how far we've come. Another traditional one, obviously, being your pigs in blankets. I'm going to hold off for a second before I choke. Another thing that I have to say about canapés, there are a few little tips that I must give people super quickly. Make sure they're small. 1 or 2 bites. When you're at a party, you're standing, you've got a glass in one hand, then you need to hold it. There. OK, I would have preferred a glass of wine, but, you know, I can't stand these canapés where I have to put the glass down in order to eat the food. I want to do it all at once.
I couldn't agree more. You should never eat more than you can lift.
Exactly.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good morning. Widespread power cuts as the country braces for heavy snow and rare freezing rain.
More than 1,200 homes are now without power. Runways are closed at Manchester and Liverpool airports.
Second weather warning for snow was issued last night, covering most of northern England. It'll be in place until midnight.
GB News can reveal that Keir Starmer ignored a Rotherham grooming gang whistleblower's bullying complaint. Our reporter Charlie Peters will tell you the latest.
The Health Secretary has vowed to scrap more than 1 million pointless NHS hospital appointments as he tries to cut waiting lists.
And Americans are saying goodbye to former President Jimmy Carter as his week-long state funeral begins.
It's 12th night, which marks the last day of the 12 days of Christmas and the coming of Epiphany.
And as an NHS trust has been promoting veganuary in a push, they say, to boost diversity and inclusion, we have asked and been debating, should they be focusing on that sort of campaign?
Good morning. Teenage darts sensation Luke Littler is targeting Phil the Power Taylor's record of 16 world titles just 24 hours after becoming the youngest ever winner of the event. In the Premier League, meanwhile, we'll look back on a thrilling day of action as Arsenal lose ground in the title race.
Good morning. A disruptive start to the day. Amber warnings for snow and ice across parts of the UK. Stay tuned to the forecast with all the details coming up soon.
It's just gone 8 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
And I'm Anne Diamond, and this is GB News Breakfast.
Can I just, after the veganuary thing, and it being sort of brought in by an NHS trust, Brenda's been in touch, and I just think, Brenda, you get it right. She says, I don't give a toss what people eat, vote or worship. It's their choice, but don't force it on me. I'm an atheist, I eat meat, and I'm a member of Reform. But that's quite right. Actually, I agree with that wholeheartedly. It doesn't matter.
Don't force it on anyone.
No, you decide what you want to do, how you want to vote, how you want to worship, how you want to... But you don't have to be told what to do by anybody else.
No, and neither should you force what your beliefs on other people either, really.
No.
Live and let live, peacefully.
Anyway, the weather, those of you who are being kind enough to send pictures in of where you are, because it is, well, I was going to say grim, beautiful in lots of places, but grim if you've got to go out in it, to be honest. Michael from Eccleshill, near Leeds, sent this picture in. Let's have a look. And it's but the cars are absolutely covered in snow.
Cars look so clean in the snow, don't they?
They do. It looks beautiful, but a real snow scene there.
And then this one from Lisa, also near Leeds, a bit more countrified. That look at that lovely lamppost covered in snow too.
And this is Michael in Crook, County Durham. He says he's just been out for a walk with Ted, who we can see there, who's a lovely. What is he?
He's a
Cocker?
spaniel.
Spaniel, some
Has he got a
description.
white coat on, or is that his own white coat? It's
Don't
difficult to know, isn't it?
4 to 5 inches there, apparently.
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely beautiful. And there's a picture of... Well, I love it when they do that. A tree with all the branches, just with that layer of snow on top.
Yeah.
Absolutely stunning.
It's OK if you don't have to go out in it, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the thing. If you can, or just have a pad about in the park and have a snowball fight or something.
What have I done to my hair? Sorry.
I don't know.
It's gone a bit...
Has it slipped?
Yeah. It slipped. Yeah, pat it down.
Yeah. Well, I've got bedhead this morning.
Yeah.
There you go. It's all... But anyway.
It's all right.
Never mind. It's the fashion, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. What can you do?
Anyway, that weather's been problematic. There are power cuts, cancelled flights and travel chaos up and down the country, actually. And 2 amber weather warnings have been issued by the Met Office.
Yeah, Manchester Airport and Liverpool's John Lennon Airport have temporarily closed their runways because of the snow, obviously. Passengers are being urged to check their flights.
Well, if you're in a rural community, been warned that you could be cut off due to the weather, some facing up to a foot of snowfall.
Well, we're joined now by GB News' Northern Ireland reporter, Doogie Beattie, who yesterday was anticipating this snow. And what's it like there for you at the moment, Doogie?
Well, good morning, Anne. Good morning, Stephen. Welcome to Rathfriland in County Down. This town sits right at the top of a hill, and according to weather maps, we should be absolutely covered in snow. But we're not, and you're talking about that freezing rain. That's exactly what's happened here. Overnight, we have had a big drop in temperatures, but we've had sleet and freezing rain coming in. It is the odd flurry of snow, but driving conditions are not good at all. The roads, I mean, as we were coming up into this village here, we passed a gritter with a snowplough, etc., sitting just down the road at the side of the road, waiting on what might happen. And I suppose it brings down to, you know, how good is our Met Office forecasts, and do we believe them all the time? Well, they don't get it right all the time, but the majority of the time they are. And this morning we are looking here at freezing road conditions, very bad sleet, and that freezing rain that you're talking about. And conditions, temperatures are really, really down in Northern Ireland. Oh, thankfully, we have avoided exactly what's happened in the north of England at this moment in time. That seems to have come across from much further south in the Republic of Ireland, down below Dublin, and out through the top of Wales, across the Irish Sea, and into the northeast of, or northwest of England, where you are getting some beautiful scenes. But, yeah, travel will be hampered. And again, as I said yesterday, just keep an eye on the elderly when you're out and about. Make sure that they're okay. There's no need for you to be out and about if you don't have to be. And look after yourselves during this very, very cold snap. There's nothing new about snow, nothing new about cold weather, but definitely at this moment in time, driving conditions in Northern Ireland can be deceptive. Let's put it like that. You're coming up that road. I was coming up that road this morning just after 5 o'clock. And you were hitting patches of ice, even on main roads.
Our viewers really care about you, and quite a few of them are saying you should be wearing a woolly hat.
Well, I try not to wear a woolly hat on air because, rather fortunately at my age, I do actually have a good head of hair, but when I put a hat on and pull it back off, it just goes every shape. Eamon Holmes often says I must have concrete holding my hair down, and I can assure you I do.
Yeah, well, look, to just keep the hat on, Doogie. Cold feet, wear a hat, that's what they always say, isn't it?
Yeah.
Doogie, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Yeah, I mean, it's always a rotten job, I think, when we send people out in the cold, but that's what you have to do.
Christina says, I love the snow. It conceals my overgrown garden. And I think they're saying the same thing, because actually without snow in winter, your garden, no matter how careful a gardener you are, it can look real rubbish, can't it?
Can do.
It can do mucky and muddy and the grass looks all unkempt. One layer of snow makes everything look so white and clean.
Yeah, it's just then the kids and the dogs and everything else get out in it and ruin it all. But there you go. Make the most of it before everybody else wakes up.
Oh, yeah,
That's
and
what I
Susan
say.
said, but Susan, you don't tell us where you live. She said, my granddaughter and I had a snowball fight last night. At 77, I haven't done that in years.
Oh.
It's another good aspect to snow, isn't it?
Someone's just messaged, Joe90's just messaging what could be Swedish. Hega vi lite snö och Storbritannien stoppa upp.
What does that mean?
No idea.
Good. Well,
no
it was
idea.
a good try.
But something about I think if it snows a little in Britain, everything stops. I think it's something like that,
yeah,
isn't it?
That sounds it, yeah.
But which isn't wrong.
Claire says there's no beautiful snowy scene here in Norfolk, I'm afraid, only rain for us.
Ah, well, just be careful, though, in case it does get icy. That's the thing. It's almost more dangerous, isn't it? Anyway, keep your pictures coming through if you would like to. gbnews.com/you'll say for your comments.
And for the pictures, it's gbviews at gbnews.com.
Now, we here at GB News can reveal that Sir Keir...
Oh, I think we're going to go...
Oh, we're going to the weather.
Yeah, we're going
to have a look at the weather, are we? OK, let's see how things work out.
Despite the morning rain, it'll be a nice, warm, cosy day ahead. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast. A very unsettled day ahead. We've got heavy snow, also heavy rain, and some melting snow leading to the risk of some flooding in places. And we've got amber warnings in force across northern parts of the UK, from the Met Office heavy snow up to 40 centimetres possible across the higher routes, leading to disruption, some power outages as well. We also have heavy rain moving into parts of Wales with melting snow here. Could lead to some localised flooding. To the south of this, bright and breezy, but temperatures on the mild side, 13, 14 Celsius. But for the vast majority, a cold, icy day to come, and icy stretches quickly reforming across parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland as we move into the evening time. Further wintry showers moving in from the north across northern Scotland here. Could see some local icy stretches overnight into Monday morning as well. Wintry outbreaks across Northern Ireland, and then heavy snow across northern England, southern Scotland, but rain to lower levels in places, and where we've had some snow, this continuing to melt, and then mild air pushing across the rest of England and Wales, but heavy rain as well moving its way eastwards as we head towards the early hours of Monday. Further snow across the north and the west into the early hours, so icy stretches reforming here, and staying quite breezy, particularly in the east, with further showers moving in. Temperatures in the north falling below freezing once more, but still mild across some southern counties of England and Wales, 4 or 5 degrees to start the day. This weather system slowly pushes into the near continent. Still the risk of some sleet and snow as it does so, brightening up for many as colder air then sinks southwards for everyone, and a cold afternoon to come on Monday. Sunny spells, wintry showers most frequent across the north, feeling cold again, temperatures in single figures across all parts of the country. See you again soon.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Now, it's 11 minutes past 8, and GB News can reveal that Sir Keir Starmer ignored a Rotherham whistleblower's bullying complaint after she exposed child abuse and corruption while he was leader of the opposition in 2020.
Well, let's talk then to our National and Investigations reporter, Charlie Peters. Tell us more, Charlie, about this.
Well, her name is Jane Senior. She was the whistleblower who exposed the scandal in Rotherham. She worked with a reporter from The Times called Andrew Norfolk to expose an appalling travesty in that South Yorkshire town, with a report released in 2014 showing that some 1,400 children, at a conservative estimate, had been sexually exploited and abused by gangs of predominantly Pakistani men in Rotherham from 1997 to 2013. And very soon after this scandal broke, there was another report which exposed the incompetence of Rotherham Council at the time, and indeed measures that they took to cover up this scandal. Now, because Jane exposed all of this, she also wanted to help fix it, and so she became a Labour councillor. This is a position she resigned eventually in March 2021 due to what she describes as a political witch hunt and bullying, the feeling of being sidelined and extensive hostility towards her, she says, because she exposed the scandal in the town. Now, we were able to reveal yesterday that a letter was sent to Sir Keir Starmer's office when he was leader of the opposition, urging Sir Keir to meet with Jane Senior, who at that point was both a Labour councillor but also broadly considered a bit of a national hero. She was given an MBE by the Queen in 2016 because of the work she did working with survivors of abuse to reveal what had taken place in Rotherham, sparking so many reports, sparking so much investigation. But he ignored this letter which said that she was facing appalling bullying, that she was being sidelined and she needed support to explain the situation. We've seen correspondence sent by Sir Keir Starmer's office that simply says, unfortunately, we won't be able to facilitate a meeting. Oh, but here is an online form for processing complaints. Now, some who might defend the now Prime Minister on this case could point to the fact that if there are complaints in the Labour Party, then they do need to be put through this sort of online form process. But fundamentally, I think what we've seen as a political reaction to this story, with both Kemi Badenoch from the Conservatives and Rupert Lowe from Reform and plenty of other commentators as well, they're all saying that, well, Jane Senior did have that national hero status. She was being bullied. Why didn't you take the time to meet with her, especially considering the reputation and fear that people had around the Labour Party and the CSE scandal and all the cover-ups? Many people have said that they have just snubbed Jane Senior at her time of need, and she walked away from politics soon after.
I mean, what is interesting in all this, of course, is it adds to the current situation where the government is being accused of trying to sweep all of this under the carpet by not wanting a full public inquiry. Kemi Badenoch's written in the Mail, hasn't she, today, saying it's time there was one. And again, almost just pushing aside the complaint, saying, well, the Conservatives had 14 years to do this and you didn't. She's saying, well, it's a new party now with a new person in charge, and we've got to take this seriously.
Yeah, it's an extraordinary discussion that's taken place this week since GB News revealed on Wednesday that Jess Phillips, the safeguarding minister, had rejected calls for a government-led inquiry into Oldham. We revealed that the letter was sent in October, well over 3 months after Oldham asked for this review. That then led to Kemi Badenoch calling for this national inquiry after Elon Musk shared the reporting by GB News, which generated quite an international conversation about this issue. Now, Kemi Badenoch, in calling for that public inquiry and the criticism they've received over what they did in 14 years, a lot of it very justified. A lot of survivors that I've spoken to over the years were not impressed by the general approach by the Conservatives. But towards the end of those 14 years, there was some action. They did commission an independent inquiry into child sexual abuse, but it lost sight of its target. It didn't look into grooming gangs. It didn't report from any towns where there were credible reports of that kind of on-street child abuse gang operating. It also only mentioned Rotherham once in 400 pages. So a lot of people say that report was insufficient. We need a public inquiry that focuses very intensely and solely on this grooming gangs crisis, because we've found up to 50 different towns and cities where this has been going on, but we've never had a national investigation, a national inquiry to reveal all of those problems. They'll also point to the fact that in 2023, after a GB News investigation, the government launched a grooming gangs task force. And if people are concerned that this problem isn't still going on, that task force made over 500 arrests in its first year and protected some 4,000 victims. A lot of people point to that task force and say, clearly, we need to learn from history, but we also need to start acting more now.
Yeah, but that's the problem with this, isn't it? We tend to, as a nation at least, we've viewed this as a historic issue which was resolved in court in a number of locations. But clearly it is ongoing and of current concern.
Yeah, Stephen, and it's a national atrocity that some people think occurred in the past and is now done. It's not the case. It's absolutely not the case. This sort of child abuse, the times have changed, technology has changed. A lot of it happens online now, appalling amounts of online abuse, but on-street grooming and assaults by gangs are still very common, and the task force has shown in its first year, just through that number of arrests and the actions it's taking, being led by the National Crime Agency, that this is an ongoing crisis. Another thing that survivors point to when you speak to them about their demand for a national inquiry is that they've only had 4 localised reports. You've had Rotherham, Rochdale, Telford, and that small review in Oldham. Now, some of those reports were very good, some of them were not. But they say we can't go over years and years of fighting for just local reports and local reviews. We need to capture all of this urgently with great resources and police action. And further, we need to ensure that public officials who failed are held to account, because all too often there have been cover-ups, people have failed enormously, people have told investigators to look the other way due to fears of racism, and that has led to a situation where public sector officials have failed and then walked away with a pension or a brand new job. For a lot of survivors, that's an appalling kick in the teeth, and they want this national inquiry to finally change that crisis.
OK, Charlie, we'll leave it there, but I know you won't leave it there, which is terrific. Well done. Thank you very much indeed. We will have to read out, though, what the Labour Party, for instance, say in reply. They've said all complaints are treated seriously and thoroughly assessed in line with our rules and procedures. Complaints are assessed via a specific process independent of the Leader's office, and this was clearly signposted in response to this correspondence at the time.
Meanwhile, the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, has said in relation to Jess Phillips, as Safeguarding Minister, that Jess Phillips has dedicated her career to tackling sexual violence and abuse and to being a voice for victims and survivors of the most terrible crimes, including child sexual abuse. From setting up the first ever child sexual exploitation service in the Black Country and supporting survivors in Telford, Jess has been a fearless and formidable advocate for victims and survivors. She's worked with whistleblowers and campaigned tirelessly for justice for those badly let down by endemic institutional failure.
And saying and accepting that still makes it odd that she doesn't support the... She has said she can't support the call for a national inquiry.
This is
that
what
it should be left to the local council.
This is what doesn't make any sense, because actually what Yvette Cooper says about Jess Phillips there is absolutely
It's true,
right.
yeah.
It's absolutely
Jess
right.
Phillips has been marvellous in the things she's done, and yet she has turned round and
said
turned
we can't do
down.
this, which just goes against everything in that she's fought for so far as we can tell. Very odd. It's very odd.
Is it because when you're in government you have to toe the government line?
Yeah.
And even somebody as outspoken as Jess Phillips has, in this case, towed the government line.
Oh.
And is that good enough?
Well, you'll let us know what you think, I'm sure, on gbnews.com/you'll say. But still to come, tonight is Twelfth Night, so typically it's the day you take down the Christmas decks. We'll tell you more about it in a moment.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Well, let's speak now to Sales Director at Savills for Quinta Properties, Raquel Santos, who is live for us in Portugal. Raquel, good to see you this morning. Why are all these celebrities flocking to Portugal all of a sudden?
Yeah, I guess it's just because of basically the great lifestyle that we have, security, you know. Portugal has kind of been a hidden, tucked away gem for quite a while that people didn't realize existed. And with the international flights that have, with the American flights coming in, it's kind of been put back on the map as a country that's worth visiting and worth investing in due to the secure investments that we offer in real estate.
Raquel, is it anything to do with tax rates? Because I think capital gains tax is, I think if it's over a certain amount, you pay half of your rate, which is 28%. Capital gains on shares and cryptocurrencies is 0. Is it anything to do with that? Because over here in the UK, big storm at the moment about millionaires apparently leaving in Exodus because of the mooted increases in taxes in just a few weeks.
Yes, so obviously the alterations that are happening with the UK in terms of the tax the tax that's being implemented on the capital gains, as you mentioned, we've definitely noticed has become a big drive, mostly on the vendor side as well, who are looking to sell because they don't want to be hit, with these higher capital gains, which is close to coming into effect.
Raquel, have you noticed then millionaires, high net worth people from the UK getting in touch with you looking to relocate?
Definitely. It's for multiple reasons, obviously, the changes that are due to come into place, obviously, and Portugal just seems to be a safe option always when things do kind of change. People opt to come into Portugal because we're quite steady, we're quite stable.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Thank you, Britain.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks for subscribing.
Thank you for your support.
It's you that make us the People's Channel.
As we reflect on our journey so far, we're filled with immense gratitude.
You mean the world to us. We couldn't have reached this point without you.
As a very special thank you, we are giving you the chance to win one of 50 GB News thank you boxes. They're worth £50 each.
For full terms and conditions, and to enter, just go to gbnews.com/thank you.
It's 8:24 now. Tonight is 12th night, which is typically the date associated with taking down the Christmas decorations.
In fact, it marks the eve of the Feast of the Epiphany, and that is celebrated annually by most of us on the 6th of January.
Let's talk to historian Martin Whittock. Martin, good to see you. Why do we traditionally take our decks down on 12th night?
Well, in the year AD 567, a church council decided that the 12 days from the Nativity would be part of the great Christmas celebrations, which gave us the beginning of our 12 days of Christmas. And starting the counting on Christmas Day, most traditions make the 12th day or 12th night January the 5th, or as you've correctly said, Epiphany Eve. And Epiphany tomorrow celebrates the coming of the wise men to visit Jesus. So this whole period from Christmas until the end of the 12 days was associated with celebrations to do with the birth or the extended period after the birth of Jesus, because the wise men probably came when Jesus was about 2, for example, and that gave us our 12 days of Christmas. So we know, for example, that in 877 the law codes of King Alfred forbid any lord to make his servants or slaves work during the 12 days of Christmas. And this was an extended period of celebration right to the medieval period. And it's a big reminder that until basically the 20th century, 19th century really, Christmas was the start. It wasn't the climax of the Christmas season. And the period of Advent leading up to Christmas was actually a fasting period, whereas now it's very much part of the celebrations. And you might also be interested to know that Shakespeare's play Twelfth Night, that phrase again, has nothing to do with beliefs about the season, but it gives us an idea of the kind of boisterous behaviour that was associated with the end of it. And interestingly enough, was first performed at Candlemas in 1602, which was the very end of the Epiphany season, which technically was the very, very, very end of Christmastide.
I see. It means basically the things we think about of Christmas, even from the birth of Jesus, as you say, through to the visitations by the Magi, it happened over a much longer period, and there were several days of celebration, particular days where things were done and certain things were celebrated. It all happened over a much longer period than we do now.
Yeah, absolutely right. So it started on Christmas Day rather than the run-up to Christmas Day. And then there was this extended period. As I say, you could actually be heavily fined in King Alfred's time, and there was trouble in the medieval period as well, if you made people work on the 12 days. So it really was a time of celebration, communal events, partying and so on. And we know that by Dickens' time in the 1840s, when it was struggling because the 1833 Factory Act had said you could only have Christmas Day off. that kind of did for the 12 days. But there was a fight back then. That people still had something called 12th cake, which was the originator of our Christmas cake, a rich fruit cake. And the idea was that it was soused in alcohol, and it would last you the whole of the 12 days. It wouldn't go off. So it was a very much an extended period. And it was often associated with some boisterous period, a lot of drinking, a lot of partying, not just religious celebrations. And that's why it attracted a lot of criticism from people as to how ordinary people celebrated it. But yeah, it was an extended period that started on Christmas Day and ran right through to the 5th of January, which is today, Epiphany Eve, and then tomorrow, the celebration of the coming of the wise men, the Magi. Although actually, we don't know how many of them there were. New Testament just says 3 gifts, gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Doesn't actually say how many of them there were. It just says there were Magi. But yet, this today, the climax of Christmas is today. Whereas for lots of people nowadays, it all ends on Christmas Day. Big party, day, back to normal. Not so in the medieval.
All done. But isn't it fascinating how, I mean, it's a very UK sort of situation that we have now. Most people don't mark Epiphany at all, whereas you only have to go to Spain, for example, and Epiphany, they just tend to call it the Three Kings, is a huge celebration.
Yeah, it really is testimony to the kicking that Christmas had in this country in the 17th century. That following the Reformation, a lot of things were associated with the Catholic Church, which is banned. Well, people didn't ban Christmas at that point, but it was kind of like, oh, well, doesn't actually say you should celebrate it necessarily in the Bible as a feast. Then between 1645 and 1660, Christmas itself was actually banned. So basically, Christmas went through quite a hard time in this country as part of the Reformation in the 16th and 17th centuries, and then had to have fight back. It really was only until the 1840s that there's a big pushback in defence of Christmas, encouraged by Prince Albert, who brought a lot of Christmas traditions from Germany to the marriage to Victoria. And it's interesting, of course, the examples of the countries you chose then are Catholic countries where a lot of the medieval traditions continued without the change, the rupture, some would say, that happened in this country at the particular English Reformation.
And then a bit earlier on, we were talking about the island of Fula up in the Shetlands, which still goes by the old Julian calendar rather than the Gregorian calendar, which we all do, which they start Old Christmas tomorrow, and then they celebrate the New Year on the 13th of January.
Yeah, and of course the Russian Orthodox Church, which still uses the Julian calendar, has Christmas Day tomorrow. And it's interesting that following the invasion in 2022 of Ukraine, the Ukrainians officially decided to switch Christmas Day to the 25th as a way of saying we are now siding with Europe in our cultural identity, no longer with, although they're still mostly an Orthodox country, no longer with the Russian calendar. So there's all sorts of strange politics that get mixed in with this, as well as an awful lot of history and cultural traditions.
Isn't it funny?
It is.
Martin, really good to talk to you. Absolutely fascinating. Thank you very much indeed.
Yeah, because I was saying before Christmas, why do we always have to bust a gut to drive, to be with family, and everybody has to be together on one day? Why not spread it a bit more and make it easier for everybody?
There you go. You're very old-fashioned.
It's the right way to do it, I think. Spread it around. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I just think it's fascinating. Of course, Jesus was probably born in about March.
Yeah.
They think.
And not in a snow-covered stable.
No, not in snow.
That was but also, do you remember when they did the Band-Aid single, Do They Know It's Christmas?
Yes.
Because of the Ethiopian famine.
Yes.
A lot of people reminded Bob Geldof, actually, that they wouldn't have known it was Christmas because in Ethiopia, the various religions there probably went by completely different dates entirely. So they wouldn't have known it was Christmas on December the 25th anyway.
No, but the sentiment was there to raise money. Good old Bob. I think he did an amazing job with that.
Yeah.
Now, look, talking of all things money, how do you fancy pocketing 50 grand in tax-free cash from us? You could do in our latest Great British giveaway. Here's how you enter.
Imagine Good luck.
Good luck indeed. Do stay with us. Aidan will be here in a couple of moments with all the latest sport.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Nana Queer, weekends from 3 p.m.
Today I am joined by documentary maker Daniel Wing, who is still trying to find out who murdered his mother 30 years on. He's also created a documentary called Who Murdered You, Mum? Daniel, can you just tell us the story of what happened to your mother, what you know?
So when I was 1 year old in 1992, my mum, Tina, was murdered. My dad went on trial for it and was acquitted, and the case went unsolved and has been unsolved for 32 years. My nan, who raised me, amazing woman, passed away sadly 2 years ago, and that kind of sent me on a quest for answers.
So your documentary then, what are you hoping to achieve with it?
I am fighting for justice for my mum. I have had a meeting with the police and they are looking to see what they have and are looking to reopen investigation if they can find new and compelling evidence. What's interesting now is speaking to other families who are actually going through the trauma and experience of murder.
Yeah.
My mum didn't get the opportunity to be a mum. What would my life have been? I'm now 33 years old with no parents. And it's that kind of thing. It's a very, I guess, lonely journey in what I'm experiencing. That's why I wanted to make this film, because I hadn't had the opportunity to be able to grieve my mother and know who she was. And that was really what this journey was about. It was about finding out who she was and being able to grieve. Everyone had the opportunity, although terrible circumstances, to be able to go to the funeral and have that moment, and I never had that opportunity.
The People's Channel.
This is Britain's newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your-say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Aidan's got the sport. Good morning. It's 8:36. Let's have a look at Luke Littler's ambition.
Yes, exactly. Well, he's
unstoppable.
Well, the Premier League placings are being announced tomorrow, which mean that it'll be the first title he's defending, because he won that last year. So things move on, and there's getting more and more events. They're getting more and more lucrative.
You mean he's gone straight into another competition?
Well, no, the announcement will be tomorrow. So I think it starts the week. No, next month. They've got the Masters later this month as well in Milton Keynes. But the stakes are going to rise because you're going to see sell-out crowds everywhere now. Most of them were sellouts anyway, but it's going to be, you can't buy a ticket for love nor money in the future. That's what you're going to have to deal with, the increased pressure, the increased prize money, the increased number of players coming into it. And to say that, yes, OK, he can target 16 titles as Phil Taylor did, well, it's going to be easier said than done, because I think the overall pool is going to get stronger. You're going to get a stronger calibre of player as well coming through. And as Barry Hearn said, the next generation are going to knock your teeth out, and this is because they put in place this structure, which means that they can get players at a younger age rather than relying on the pub competition game to produce players for them. But I want to speak to one about. I want to hear from a grab from Luke Littler. Here's what he said yesterday at the press conference.
I wouldn't say I've set myself any goals. Obviously, I've said previously I'd like to win one of every major and then add on to them. But obviously, like you said there, I could be chasing Michael's 3 titles and then potentially Phil's 16.
Do you believe you can get to those kind of numbers? You said
the 12 starts night, you're going to be here for a long time. So do you believe you can get to those numbers?
Yeah, I believe I can. If I want it deep down, then I could potentially do it.
Of course he could.
Yes, he's very confident, isn't he?
Yeah, good on him.
Works out that if he's going to hunt down Phil Taylor's 16, if he won one every other year, he'd be 49, I think, before he completed the haul. I mean, that's still quite young in darts.
Well, it's not bad for darts, is it?
It's not.
No.
And also, there's not what's to stop him rattling off 6 or 7 in a row.
Exactly.
You know, easy as that. I mean, he's already won a fair degree of competitions. I was reading in the papers this morning his prize money, including what he scooped yesterday, £2 million over the year now. More than I thought, yeah.
Wow.
More than I thought.
Good on him.
And he said, I just know that it's there. He said, I haven't spent it all yet.
No.
But I know that it's
Good
there.
lad.
It's quite comforting, that, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a comfort blanket. Money is security.
Well, I'm glad he's got the common sense. He's not out driving a Ferrari or something stupid. He's just being a sensible lad.
Yes.
Buying a Mercedes, apparently, isn't it?
Oh, well,
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You can spend quite a lot of money on a Mercedes if you really want to.
Well, yes, but apparently it's not the top of the range, most expensive one at all.
Oh, right.
It's not showing off. It's just a car he's always fancied.
OK.
I can't tell you which model it is.
No. Quite like gunmetal grey, actually, in a Mercedes.
Do you?
Yeah, it's nice.
Oh, any other type of car
Exactly.
is available. What went on in the Premier League yesterday?
We had quite an interesting day of matches, actually. Tottenham losing at home to Newcastle. Ange Postecoglou saying, this is the Tottenham manager saying he was the most angry he's ever been in his career. He just felt it's not a level playing field, in his words. He felt that some of the key decisions went against them. But he's seeing a different game to what a lot of other people are seeing. And what happened to Erik ten Hag when he started doing his comical alley act, it's a sign that you're on your way out of the door. I don't think he's got a great deal of time left, actually, although his team are very entertaining, but they are losing quite a lot. They've only won 2 of the last 11 games now. Bournemouth, wow. Anne's been asking about them from time to time.
How are they
this season.
doing?
Well, they won at Old Trafford a couple of weeks ago. They followed it up with a win against Everton yesterday. It was hard fought out, but once again, they're challenging for the European places, which nobody expected. The guy who scored the goal was a fellow called David Brooks, who it's his first goal since he made a full recovery from cancer, so that's wonderful to hear. Villa beating Leicester. Leicester got a late equaliser there, but they were pegged back. Chelsea dropping points at Crystal Palace. They've been on a little bit of a ropey run the last few weeks.
Oh, a bit better news for Man City, though.
Yes, exactly. But West Ham had 17 shots on goal, more than Man City. And West Ham's manager Julian Lopetegui looking increasingly beleaguered now. But Man City, they're not going to travel. They're not going to trouble the Premier League title race. But I think top 4, not out of the question. And Brentford going to Southampton. Southampton recently sacked their manager. The new guy doesn't seem to be doing any better. 5-0 at home to Brentford. Appalling result for them. And Arsenal believe they were cheated out of a penalty claim against Brighton, which saw them lose 2 points. And that, again, we mentioned last hour, didn't we? Liverpool have because Arsenal lost points yesterday. They have some huge incentives today to beat Manchester United.
Well, that's a 6:30 match. It's going to be interesting.
4:30.
Sorry, 4:30. It's going to be interesting to see whether they can actually carry on with that today.
Yeah, I think
it's going to be weather dependent, isn't it?
Look, I mean, yeah, it will. But
you've got a heated pitch there.
Yeah, I mean, all pitches in the Premier League now would be undersaw heated. The earliest undersaw heating started going in the early 90s.
Oh, right.
So they had the Deso pitch technology. I don't want to sound too much like Percy Thrower, but
No, you told us about it a while ago.
I know. I remember. Yeah. So it's a lot of it's plastic.
Yeah.
So I remember showing someone how it works. I was standing at a ground a couple of years ago, and I just invited my guests to grab some grass. But you could only when she looked at her hand, it was only well, not a handful, just a little bit of grass because the other ones couldn't pull up. It's to stop it tearing up. If you look at a pitch from 20 years ago, even it will cut up at this time of year. In fact, you get games postponed, but it's very rare you get games postponed over weather now.
Oh.
If it is weather, it's because of access around the ground. It's not because of the field of play.
Half plastic, half grass.
Yes.
Interesting when you...
Like my hair.
Oh, you said it. Said it. Aidan, thank you very much.
Good to see you this weekend.
Good to see you.
Can I ask a very meaningful question?
Oh.
You know little sun catchers?
Yes.
Yeah, they're the sort of things that look a bit like stained glass windows.
And you hang them up.
Are they naff?
No, nice. I've got loads.
Oh, really? Oh, good.
They're a bit town centre, aren't they?
I've just happened upon a cookie has followed me and on my computer, and it's got these wonderful sun catchers. And I was thinking,
no, that robin's lovely.
Oh, there's a robin. There's a beautiful Christmas tree. I mean, there are lots of Christmassy ones, but there are non-Christmassy ones as well.
No, I love a sun
I think
catcher.
I fancy that.
Definitely, nice little bargain.
Yeah.
Then.
Okay.
Anyway, away from that, we're going to go through the papers in just a minute. But if you fancy catching a bit of winter sun yourself, here's the forecast for the top European destinations.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean all clear skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Hello there. It continues to remain unsettled across western parts of the Mediterranean, but fairly warm for the time of year. Drier further east. Dry for Madeira though, temperatures 18 Celsius on Monday, but you can see unsettled weather across Portugal, Spain, southern France into Italy. Temperatures on the cool side, but drier towards Greece and Cyprus and Turkey as well. But temperatures here nearer to average for the time of year, but some pleasant sunny spells. Staying warm in Madeira for the next few days as well.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Thank you, Britain.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks for subscribing.
Thank you for your support.
It's you that make us the People's Channel.
As we reflect on our journey so far, we're filled with immense gratitude.
You mean the world to us.
We couldn't have reached this point without you.
As a very special thank you, we are giving you the chance to win one of 50 GB News thank you boxes. They're worth £50 each.
For full terms and conditions, and to enter, just go to gbnews.com/thank you.
Britain's newsroom, weekday mornings from 9:30.
Maria, potholes are the bane of everybody that uses the road, whether you're a car driver or a cyclist. As a cyclist, are even worse. How have we got into this situation where our roads are in such a bad state?
Well, part of it is to do with actually our climate. In somewhere like, say, Sweden, like the snow will fall on the ground, it will stay there for months. Whereas here, we've got what's called a freeze-thaw climate, where the water comes down, then we might have a cold snap and it freezes, and the water within the pothole will then expand and make the pothole bigger. Then we might have a mild spell, and then that process repeats. So, we do actually need extra funding to acknowledge the fact that, we just live in a climate where we're sort of particularly vulnerable to potholes.
Why? I mean, the fact that this happens, these weather conditions happen, is no great surprise to anybody. Why has the problem been ignored for so long?
I think what's happened is we've had short-term funding. So it's like, oh, there's a pothole, let's patch it up. Oh, there's another one, let's patch it up. But the patches aren't actually really that strong, so then they break down again. So, really what we need is to have roads completely resurfaced, and then they'll just be pothole-free for a very long time. And that really is how funding should be. That's the direction funding should go in, as opposed to just sort of dribs and drabs here and there.
Do you think this government are going to be good for the motorist, or is there indeed a war on the motorist still?
The different parties come in and they've all got different policies that they wheel out, then they cancel the policies, and then there's so much lack of transparency. Like, for example, with the pothole issue, sometimes the government, whichever government is in office, will do some big showboating about how they're going to give X amount of potholes, and you still think that sounds really good.
GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Nana Acquia. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Right, we're looking through the papers this morning with Emma Wolfe and Winston Davis. Good morning to you. We haven't got a papers list. What are we starting with, Emma?
We are starting with the joy of a new virus. Possibly.
This is in China?
This is in China, yeah. I mean, we've heard about the quademic recently, haven't we? And everyone seems to have some kind of virus. Now, state media are reporting that China's experiencing outbreak of the, I think I'm saying it right, metapneumovirus.
And this is in Henan province.
Yeah, and they're experiencing packed hospitals, very, very worried patients, crematoriums and funeral homes being overwhelmed once again.
What are the symptoms of this one then?
It's a respiratory virus. So it's primarily sort of coughs and colds and everything, but then it can develop into quite severe bronchitis or pneumonia.
And it's affecting children as well, isn't it?
Particularly dangerous, yeah, for young children, the vulnerable, obviously, and the elderly. And they're saying scenes reminiscent of the early days of SARS, CoV-2 virus, which was obviously the beginning of COVID, in late 2019.
It's a worry, isn't it? I mean, one doesn't want to be scarifying,
More
but
travel.
it is a worry when it sort of feels like this is how COVID started.
Yeah, and I mean, the thing is, obviously, there's not official stuff coming out of China. It's been spread on social media. Only thing I think I'd hold on to is the fact that this virus was first identified in 2001.
Oh.
So it's not a new virus.
But nevertheless, it is overcrowding hospitals, isn't it?
Yeah, the fact that there's an outbreak of it. I mean, a virus can be bubbling away, and it's so hard to know, you know. We hear about SARS, we hear about bird flu, we hear about this, that and the other, quaddemic and things like that. It's so hard to dissociate, you know, what's just colds and flu, and what's actually gastro, and what's I don't know. I just find one that is overwhelming.
It's interesting because we've had things like this before, and you sort of think, oh, well, that's worrying. Keep an eye on it. Post-COVID, it does feel like more worrying.
And people don't know what they've got. I mean, now most of us don't test if we feel rotten. We think, well, maybe it's a touch of COVID, maybe it's the flu, whatever. So it's hard to know kind of the prevalence as well. And also people avoiding going to A&E and hospitals, aren't they?
Yeah. 100%.
Winston, what's this in the Sunday Mirror about female police officers? You get a morning off if they think they're menopausal.
Yeah, so research by the Police Federation has shown that lots of women are now suffering from the menopause. 80% of them have suffered tiredness and sleep deprivation. 33% have considered quitting, and 56% have not gone for promotion because of it. Bearing in mind that women make up 35% of all of our officers across 43 forces in England and Wales, and it's becoming more of an issue as the forces getting older, as the women are getting older, and they're asking for reforms like saying if they've been up all night and haven't had sleep, that they can change from a 7 a.m. shift to a later shift, essentially.
Should that be? I don't know, Emma.
I'm not sure what I think about this. I immediately kind of, when you said suffering from the menopause, I mean, it's a normal part of the female kind of, you know...
Yeah, but some people do
life
suffer.
process. But then I see what you're saying, that, you know, we do need more understanding, I think. But similarly for things like, you know, that time of the month, period pains, this stuff that women go through, or even terrible morning sickness during pregnancy. We do need a greater kind of awareness of things that normal women go through in the normal course of their hormonal, biological life. So possibly, you know, this kind of focus on the menopause is a good thing.
Yeah.
Just an understanding of it, but I'm not sure that we want special treatment for women being moved around shift at the last minute and whatever.
No, because you've got shifts to fill.
You've got shifts to fill. You've got to be professional. If women want to be taken seriously, then I suppose I don't know. There's always this sort of. It's difficult to treat women's problems, isn't it, without being sort of seen as less professional. So.
But I think it goes back to what you're saying about knowledge and information. Like 40% of police forces don't actually have a menopause policy.
Well, should you have a menopause policy?
I don't know. Well, I don't know. I'm not a woman.
This is what I sort of think. I mean, it's you need an understanding boss. You need someone who... Surely most places would show a level of understanding. To have a menopause policy...
Well, but then again, it does affect over 50% of the population. It will affect at some point over 50% of the population. And men don't really have the cycles that women have throughout their lives in different ways. So I sort of feel yes and no on this.
Yeah, but some women really... I mean, I never went through that sort of pain and suffering at all. But you know that some women do actually suffer from their menopausal symptoms. And I mean properly suffer. I don't mean it just hurts. I mean, it affects them very badly. So if they want to stay in a career, there should be some sort of policy in place that will help them.
But I think that the menstrual cycle as well probably affects women, some women, very, very badly for a week every month. So, I mean, it's really hard to know where do we draw the line or where do we just say which women do, just get on with it. They do, just get on with it.
Well, I mean, this has come off the back of a police officer losing a tribunal for sex discrimination up in Cleveland and Cleveland Police Force because she was saying that she was being replaced because she was having issues with the menopause, and she actually lost it. So this is changes that are coming off the back of that.
Well, I mean, that's
if it is severe, then, as Stephen says, you know, have an understanding boss and have those conversations.
Yeah. Can we just finish on this? If you want to be... we've got a minute 30. An OAP getting out a student loan in the Star.
This is
What a good
hilarious.
way to do it, because you'd no intention of ever paying
This
it
is
back.
hilarious. Well, no, thousands of over 60s are taking out loans. There's a loophole in the higher education system, which means that these older folk can apply for the student loans, and often, in terms of repayment, their pension income is not even taken into account. So, as you say, they will probably never have to pay it back. Although over 60s these days is no age at all.
No.
You know, they've got 30 or so years
Doesn't
to
matter their
chase you up.
estate, does it?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. And they probably won't have to pay it back.
There's a thought.
Clever older folk.
Well, good on them. I mean, I know it's money that we're meant to be getting back, and as a country you should be saying, well, we need the money back.
Yeah.
However, I do sort of think,
Thousands have applied for them.
go for it.
2019. Good for them.
Sort of go for it. If it's a loophole you can get through, go for it.
Go on a
Well,
cruise.
if we're giving money away for free, then give it away. But don't say we're giving it away, but you might have to pay it back. Just say, it's a free gift.
Yeah, but they're not, though, are they? The government doesn't sort it through.
That's just what I'm saying. It's not, they're saying take it and don't pay it back without saying take it and don't pay it back.
Yeah. I mean, are they doing any studying?
I don't actually know whether they're applying for courses. I don't know.
Listen, if a lady's walking 200 miles at 100, I believe they'll be studying.
Yeah. They might not have to study that hard, though.
Maybe.
I mean,
you could do the University of the Third Age.
Yeah, you could do that maybe once a week from home.
Or
do an evening course or something.
Yeah, Open University,
absolutely.
expand your horizons and do it for free.
I think it's a great idea.
Why not?
If you've done
it.
just that, love to find out.
Good on you. Right, you two, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much indeed.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Right, here's the weather with Greg.
A chilly start will give way to a lovely, warm afternoon. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast. A very unsettled day ahead. We've got heavy snow, also heavy rain, and some melting snow leading to the risk of some flooding in places. And we've got amber warnings in force across northern parts of the UK, from the Met Office heavy snow up to 40 centimetres possible across the higher routes, leading to disruption, some power outages as well. We also have heavy rain moving into parts of Wales with melting snow here. Could lead to some localised flooding. To the south of this, bright and breezy, but temperatures on the mild side, 13, 14 Celsius. But for the vast majority, a cold, icy day to come. And icy stretches quickly reforming across parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland as we move into the evening time. Further wintry showers moving in from the north across northern Scotland here. Could see some local icy stretches overnight into Monday morning as well. Wintry outbreaks across Northern Ireland, and then heavy snow across northern England, southern Scotland, but rain to lower levels in places, and where we've had some snow, this continuing to melt, and then mild air pushing across the rest of England and Wales, but heavy rain as well moving its way eastwards as we head towards the early hours of Monday. Further snow across the north and the west into the early hours, so icy stretches reforming here, and staying quite breezy, particularly in the east, with further showers moving in. Temperatures in the north falling below freezing once more, but still mild across some southern counties of England and Wales, 4 or 5 degrees to start the day. This weather system slowly pushes into the near continent. Still the risk of some sleet and snow as it does so, brightening up for many as colder air then sinks southwards for everyone, and a cold afternoon to come on Monday. Sunny spells, wintry showers, showers most frequent across the north, feeling cold again, temperatures in single figures across all parts of the country. See you again soon.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
50
Good luck. Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
In 2020, after almost 80 years, Oxford University's Pitt Rivers Museum removed its famous collection of shrunken heads with sewn-up lips and eyes made by the South American Shuar and Ashwar people. How do museums decide what should be shown and what should be confined to storage? Can controversial exhibits be left on display with suitable contextualisation in captions? Who would want to be a curator facing such controversial questions? For review, I'm delighted to be joined by journalist Eitan Smallman. Welcome to GB News. I think many people, when they hear that we're going to discuss museums or art galleries, think that it's going to be, that wokery question. But it strikes me, and I think it strikes you too, that this is not just about wokery at all. There are some really interesting ethical questions here. For example, let's start with this one, and there are several examples of it. Should we be displaying human bodies, the remains of human beings? Should we be displaying them in museums?
Absolutely. It's not just the usual suspects, young snowflakes, who are objecting to these things. They're just naturally cultural shifts, and people of all ages and all political persuasions may feel uneasy about displaying human remains of any kind, especially human remains that have been taken against the will of the communities or taken violently. Hilary Mantel led a campaign to remove a 7-foot 7-inch skeleton of Charles Byrne, known as the Irish Giant, from the Centenarian Museum. He had specifically said that he didn't want to be displayed and didn't want to be taken by anatomists, and yet was displayed for a couple of hundred years until a couple of years ago. He hasn't had the burial he requested, but he's no longer on public display.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good morning. Widespread power cuts as the country braces for heavy snow and rare freezing rain.
More than 1,200 homes are without power. Runways are closed at Manchester, Liverpool and Leeds Bradford airports.
Well, a second weather warning for snow issued last night, covering most of northern England. That's going to remain in place until midnight tonight.
GB News can reveal Keir Starmer ignored a Rotherham grooming gang whistleblower's complaint. Our reporter Charlie Peters has the latest.
The Health Secretary has vowed to scrap more than 1 million what he calls pointless NHS appointments as he tries to cut waiting lists.
Americans say goodbye to former President Jimmy Carter as his week-long state funeral begins.
It's 12th night tonight. It marks the last night of Christmas and, of course, the coming of Epiphany tomorrow.
Good morning. A disruptive start to the day. Amber warnings for snow and ice across parts of the UK. Stay tuned to the forecast with all the details coming up soon.
It's just gone 9 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
And I'm Anne Diamond, and this is GB News Breakfast.
I was hoping for some more Christmas pictures, but we haven't got any lined up. Or snow pictures, I should say, rather than Christmas pictures. So we're desperate for a white Christmas, and then we get a white New Year.
Yes.
Always the way.
We only just missed out, didn't we?
Yeah, but I know loads of people are getting in touch saying it's winter, it's cold, what's the issue? But actually it is causing some problems, isn't it?
Yes, you need to know and be prepared for it because, like I was saying earlier this morning when I walked out to the car, there was such a blanket of snow. I couldn't tell where the edge of the pavement was, and I sort of fell off it. And it just shows you have to be careful.
You do, yeah, you really do. And if you are planning, if you have to go somewhere today and you have got bad weather, even if it doesn't look snowy, there's a lot of ice about, just double your journey time because it is slow on the roads. At least it is this time of day. It'll get better as the day goes on. It'll warm up a little bit. It'll all melt a little bit, but for most areas anyway.
Yeah.
But there are currently power cuts, cancelled flights. 3 airports we know of that have cancelled flights for now. So travel chaos actually around the country, and 2 amber weather warnings have been issued.
Yes, and then you come to the airports, Manchester, for instance, Liverpool's John Lennon Airport and Leeds Bradford Airport have temporarily closed their runways because of snow. Obviously, they're clearing it, and they may well open quite soon. We'll keep you informed. Passengers are being urged, though, to check on your flight before you set off.
Yeah, and if you're in a rural part of the country, well, there is a possibility, apparently, you could be cut off because of the weather. Some areas facing up to a foot of snowfall.
Well, we're joined now by GB News' intrepid Northern Ireland reporter, Doogie Beattie, who's out there in the cold again. Where are you now, Doogie, and how bad or good are things looking?
Well, I've moved about 5 miles up the road from Rathfriland and up to Hilltown. We're in the foot of the Mourne Mountains, and I always like showing to the rest of the UK and all its beauty. I'm just in the foothills of the Mourne Mountains, and you can see behind me the beautiful peaks, etc. here. And if I just get the camera to pan down here, you'll see the Mournes in all their beauty, but also covered in snow. These temperatures have now really dropped once again, and we're seeing these small flurries of snow coming in. And then just in the last few minutes when I was standing here, my eyebrows were actually covered in snow, because we're getting these I wouldn't call them blizzards, but heavy snow showers, and they're very intermittent ones starting to come again here. And it is causing problems for people getting around the roads. But the most of Northern Ireland isn't like this. I've got to say, we're not going to say this is how Northern Ireland is. This is the Mourne Mountains, the foothills of it, and in round Newry. And as I've said earlier on this morning, most of the snow that crossed into the north of England came from south of the border, and the Mournes in this area, Newry just in behind us, we are not too far away from the Republic of Ireland, and it seems to have got its fair share of snow, the same as the north of England. But it sort of came up at an angle. If you imagine Northern Ireland sitting here, Britain sitting there, it's came up at an angle like that and very much skirted round us. So this is the edge, I suppose, of that snow that hit the Republic of Ireland and has landed with Hughes. But it is beautiful, there's no doubt about it. The sleet is not beautiful and the freezing rain is not beautiful. But the snow, you must say, I mean, it looks picturesque. It is freezing, but I mean, many's the time I spent in this valley with the Boys Brigade, etc. in my younger years. We used to have to hike from one end of these mountains to the other, but absolutely beautiful. And please be careful on the roads, especially in and around the Hilltown, Newry, Castlewellan area, Armagh. It is very slidey. Conditions underfoot, not good. But I did get to show you the Mourne Mountains this morning,
well, this
which
is
I'm very pleased at.
It's worth it, Doogie, for that, because it does look stunning there.
It's C.S. Lewis country, isn't it, the Mourne Mountains? It's said that that's near where C.S. Lewis was born, and he used to look out over the Mourne Mountains. And when he came to write the books about Narnia, though the Mourne Mountains is what he was thinking of. Yeah. And it too, well, actually, of course, Narnia...
C.S. Lewis...
Yeah, Narnia too is covered in snow.
Yeah, but C.S. Lewis was more of an East Belfast man.
Well,
this is the Bronte sisters' country that we're out in here now. And actually, the homestead is just up the road here, not 3 miles away from here.
There you go. You're a well of knowledge, Doogie. Thank you very much indeed. We'll catch you a little bit later on.
It's
Go and warm up.
A lovely part of the world in good weather.
Yeah.
Lovely part of the world in snowy weather, but you have to be very brave to venture out in it.
Yes, you do. Now, coming up 9:30, it's the Camilla Tominey Show. She joins us now. Good morning, Camilla. One of the big issues today is the NHS. Of course. Wes Streeting saying he's going to get rid of a whole load of pointless NHS appointments. Mary's been in touch this morning and says, how do you decide what's a pointless appointment?
Well, I think Mary's got a very good point, and I was reading the coverage of this morning on my way in. I will be speaking to the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, on the show from 9:30, because... actually, isn't this just another method of stopping people from seeing doctors? The main problem that patients have these days is that they are not able to get in to physically see their GP. They're having to wait far too long to see consultants if they've got more serious conditions. And ultimately, we've still got that 7.5 million people on waiting lists for actual treatment. So we can appreciate, I think, and lots of people will have sympathy with Wes Streeting being quite brave on the left in saying that he wants to bring in more private providers providers and give patients more choice when it comes to their operations. That's something the right have been calling for some time, to ease the pressure on the NHS. But at the same time, there is a reason why people have follow-up appointments. It's to make sure that their operations have gone well and without complications, and it's to maintain a dialogue about chronic conditions between patient and doctor. So I think there'll be concerns about that. The other thing that's missing from the press release that Labour has given out this morning in relation to its NHS announcements, and we're going to hear from the Prime Minister on this subject tomorrow, is any target when it comes to reducing that 7.5 million figure. Streeting is suggesting he wants to change that 18-month wait into an 18-week wait by the end of Parliament. Well, we'll all be hopeful for him to achieve that. But what about that 7.5 million figure, which has remained stubbornly high even now that we are, 5 years on from the first COVID lockdown?
I wonder as well what your guests are going to make of, for instance, the front page of the Mail on Sunday, saying their poll has found that most people reckon Keir Starmer won't be in number 10 for the rest of for another year. I mean, this is going to be his year, and that's it.
Well, it's not the first time we've heard that kind of speculation, is it, Anne? Let's be honest, he has had a pretty disastrous first 5 months in office. I know that you've been speaking this morning, and I will continue to speak about stripping pensioners of the winter fuel allowance. It was Wes Streeting who suggested a couple of weeks ago that they should layer up. Well, they're going to have to, because we've got pensioners on 14 grand a year, probably being put off putting their heating on, even as it's currently snowing across half of the country. So, yes, we'll be drilling into that. But I think as well, the other question for Streeting and my other guests is going to be about these grooming gangs. I don't actually even like using the terminology grooming gang, because it doesn't really do justice what has happened to these teenage victims. Thousands of girls who have been raped as children by largely Pakistani men in areas of the north of England. So I'm going to be asking Wes Streeting, why is it that Labour continues to resist this public inquiry? I'll also be speaking to the Shadow Home Secretary, Chris Philp. Why was it that the Conservatives didn't have a full public inquiry when this was such a grave crime committed against, let's be honest, some of the most vulnerable members of our society? And I'm going to be speaking to a policing expert, Oliver Lawrence, about the subject, because I think we need to get down to the nitty-gritty. And I will be directly asking Mr. Streeting whether this is about political expediency. Are Labour worried about the Muslim vote? Are Labour worried about the questions that will inevitably be asked of Keir Starmer as a former director of public prosecutions about what he didn't do while he was in office and this was going on?
Yeah, well, what is interesting, though, is this, I mean, the Grooming Gang Task Force, which has only been running for just over a year, has made 500 arrests in the first year, which, I mean, because we tend to think about this as almost a historic issue that needs to be investigated and people held to account. Clearly, it's still ongoing.
It's still ongoing, and Stephen, worryingly, the Telegraph published figures at the weekend suggesting that there's been a 10% rise in cases since last year. So this is a criminal phenomenon that is not abating at all. And you talk about people being held to justice. One of the most staggering facts of this matter is that two of the main ringleaders of the abuse in Rochdale, who have been stripped of their British citizenship, are still living in Rochdale among their victims 9 years on. Why? I mean, we hear from the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, about smashing the gangs. Maybe the Labour government might want to be minded to actually remove people who have been stripped of their citizenship and are living among their victims. These are people that they have raped as children in Rochdale as we speak and discuss this issue. I'll also be raising it with Richard Tice, the Deputy Reform Leader, who's coming on the show. He can also react, can't he, Stephen and Anne, to some of that polling on the front of the Mail on Sunday, which suggests that most people in the UK predict that Nigel Farage will be the next Prime Minister, not Keir Starmer and not Kemi Badenoch.
Well, it's going to be interesting,
They can make
isn't
the
it?
mathematics of that work.
Yeah. OK, Camilla, good to see you. We'll see you at 9:30. Thank you.
Now, how about starting the new year with 50 grand tax-free in your pocket? It could all be yours from our Great British Giveaway. Here's the details you need to take part.
Imagine
Luck to you. Still to come, we're going to be getting the latest that GB News can reveal on those grooming gangs and those who blew the whistle.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
This week is Chocolate Week, the ultimate celebration of everything rich, sweet and indulgent.
Yes, and we now have the best person in the studio with us to satisfy all of your chocolate cravings. We're joined now by master chocolatier Ollie the Choc. Ollie,
hello.
Really good to see you this
Thank
morning.
you for having me.
And you brought some of your chocolate in with you.
I did. I brought some tasting samples. You're very welcome to help yourself.
So what have you got here? Tell us.
So this is my signature chocolate. I call it the Holy Grail. It's got sea salt flakes, crushed Oreo, caramel fudge pieces, very Moorish.
I love a caramel and salt combo, just, you know. I feel like you see it everywhere now. Look,
you won't be disappointed.
Look, I want everyone to see a close-up of this one. Can we get a shot on this one? So this is Oreo, there we are, caramel and salt. Do you want to try some?
You go first. Help yourselves. And then this bar of chocolate is a little bit of a wild card. That's a mystery flavour, so...
OK, I love a mystery.
I'm not going to tell you what that is.
Hold on this one. This one's amazing.
Are you?
Oreo, caramel.
That's my biggest seller.
I'll keep my palate clean for this. So this is a mystery flavour.
You've got to guess what that is.
Is that a nut in there, I see? Right, here we go. Ready?
I'm not saying anything.
Talk us through.
Very crunchy.
For me, I'm all about textures in chocolate.
Me too.
It has got a good crunch to it, hasn't it? It's not the kind of flavour that you would expect.
Oh, I can't get it.
Is it sweet? Is it salty?
Wait, no, it's salty, yeah.
It's
OK,
salty.
Hang, bit more.
OK.
Bit more.
I mean, just keep going.
Crisps? Wait,
It is crispy, it's crunchy. Could it be crisps?
I think it could be crisps. Yeah, it's crisps.
So what flavour?
Salt and vinegar. Cheese and onion.
Yes, nailed it. You know.
Oh, you're much better than me.
Love that.
Do you know what? I think I've got a bit of a cold, so my taste buds are
Oh,
off.
you're going to blame that, are you?
That's my excuse. That's delicious.
GB News, the People's Channel.
£16:09. Now, GB News can reveal that Sir Keir Starmer ignored a Rotherham whistleblower's bullying complaint after she exposed child abuse and corruption, this happening when he was leader of the opposition in 2020.
A little earlier on, we spoke to our National and Investigations reporter, Charlie Peters.
Well, her name is Jane Senior. She was the whistleblower who...
Oh, dear.
Apologies.
Something wrong with the recording there.
Yeah, oh, that's a shame.
It's interesting, isn't it, after so many months and years of not enough being said about the grooming gangs, it is in the news more and more now.
Yes.
And we mustn't call them grooming gangs. They were rape gangs, weren't they?
Yeah, no, the grooming gang thing is an odd title. It's the official sort of term, the grooming gang task
But it makes it sound slightly more acceptable than what it really was, which is torture and rape.
Yes.
Kidnap.
And particularly with people who were very vulnerable.
Yeah.
The most vulnerable in society. And it's just this very strange idea that people sort of not always turned a blind eye, but didn't look at it directly because there were fears of being racist or being seen to be racist, when surely the law is above that. If you break the law, you should be prosecuted for that, regardless of race, religion, creed, colour or anything else.
Yes, but there's also another factor, isn't it? It's not just the fear of being seen to be racist. It's now the fear that you will lose the Muslim vote because you will be saying something that may offend many Muslims.
That can't be something, surely. Though, I mean, surely not.
Well,
no, I mean, you can't work on that basis. I mean,
It's a thought, isn't it? It's being put out there that's why because it's become political as well as just crime. It's now. It could be seen as a political thing.
And of course, I mean, Kemi Badenoch's in the Mail today calling for a full public inquiry. She's been criticised already by Nigel Farage, saying, well, the Tories had 14 years to do that and they didn't, which is a valid point. She says, well, we didn't do enough, no, but now there's a new person in charge, that's me, and I think we should do something about it. Perhaps that's a fair argument. I do wonder why, though, the Labour Party doesn't say, you're right, not enough was done. Tories didn't do enough. Although, Jess Phillips appeared to say it shouldn't happen, but you know what, we've rethought it, let's get on with it. And sort of take the initiative, take the lead. That would be politically good if you want to play politics with it.
Yes, now they are in power. Surely they have the confidence to be able to say, OK, the past was wrong, but let's change the present and the future.
Yeah.
And get it done now.
I mean,
and yet they're saying still no to a national inquiry.
Yeah.
Which is what most people seem to want.
Well, it seems like there's a lot of dots which haven't yet been joined up in all of this. And, and if this is right, 500 arrests were made between April 2023 and April 24 by the Grooming Gang Task Force, as it was set up. 500 arrests. Which means, I don't know how many prosecutions out of that, but that clearly means there is a problem which is ongoing now. So that needs to be addressed.
Yes, and what about what Camilla was talking about, the fact that in cases where there have been prosecutions and somebody has had their British citizenship taken off them, they're still living in the community 9 years later, in amongst the very people they abused.
Well, that makes no sense at all. Does it? It makes absolutely no sense. Again, politically, is it difficult to say, well, these people need to be removed? They need to be sent back to, the country where they come from originally. I mean, you would think that would be the case. I don't know why that's so difficult. Anyway, there is this issue about the whistleblower who was claimed they were bullied, and
the case was put to Keir Starmer's department when he was Director of Public Prosecutions.
And it was rejected.
I don't think there's any proof that Keir Starmer himself oversaw it, not personally, but it was rejected by his office.
Earlier we did speak to... Have we got Charlie Peters?
I think we may have.
Hopefully we can hear from Charlie Peters now.
No,
OK, we haven't. Anyway,
sorry about
that. Let's tell you what the Labour Party said about this. They said all complaints are treated seriously, thoroughly assessed in line with our rules and procedures. Complaints are assessed via a specific process independent of the Leader's office, and this was clearly signposted in response to this correspondence at the time. Signposted, that's not good enough.
No, it's not. Yeah.
It's not good enough. I mean, this lady claiming she was really bullied after blowing the whistle on this. Well, whistleblowers actually have a degree of legal protection, don't they?
Well, yes, they should have.
So, that really needs to be...
Anyway, I mean, Camilla's going to be looking into this, isn't she? In her programme in just a few minutes.
Yeah.
We've got a statement as well from the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper.
Yes.
And she said, Jess Phillips, because Jess Phillips is the...
safeguarding.
Safeguarding, that's right. Her very brief is to look after and to deal with these sort of issues. She says, Jess Phillips has dedicated her career to tackling sexual violence and abuse and to being a voice for victims and survivors of the most terrible crimes, including child sexual abuse, from setting up the first ever child sexual exploitation service in the Black Country and supporting survivors in Telford. Jess has been a fearless and formidable advocate for victims and survivors. She has worked with whistleblowers and campaigned tirelessly for justice for those badly let down by endemic institutional failure.
And she has, to be fair to her, she has done that. She has been a real powerhouse, a real voice for this sort of thing, which makes it more incomprehensible about this decision which has now been, which said if you wanted to investigate this, the councils need to do it themselves. The government's not going to take the lead on it. But you do need a national grown-up connecting the dots picture on this. Surely.
Anyway, as we said, Camilla will be looking into this even more in her programme in just a few minutes. We've been talking about the weather all morning, and you've been sending in some of your lovely photos of the snow where you are.
Yes, Dean from Barnsley sent this in earlier this morning. You can see the sort of snowflakes in front of the flash there out onto the back garden, and then there's a sort of clearer shot, if you like. But it looks like quite a lot of snow, a few inches there.
This one is from Stephen, I think, in Polton.
Yes, Polton.
Polton Lafylde.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Why is it Polton Lafylde?
Well, it's Fylde is the district.
Oh, I see.
It's a district.
OK. That's a lovely view.
Polton's
this is from
nice.
Derek in Lytham in Lancashire.
Very nice too. Is that Derek's? There you go. Beautiful, beautiful. I mean, I'd say there's a good few inches of snow.
The one we're looking at now is from Kay. Thank you so much, Kay, for sending that in. That's Doncaster under snow.
And Newton Aycliffe in County Durham. This from Bill. And there's a beautiful tree centred in the shot with the moon behind it. So it really does look like something from a Christmas card. And a good couple of inches down there.
Anyway, thank you so much for sending those photos in. It's lovely that
we
get to see your view.
Yeah, it is. Very nice indeed. Well, don't go anywhere. Camilla Tominey Show is up for you in just a moment.
Keep warm.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast. A very unsettled day ahead. We've got heavy snow, also heavy rain, and some melting snow leading to the risk of some flooding in places. And we've got amber warnings in force across northern parts of the UK from the Met Office. Heavy snow up to 40 centimetres possible across the higher routes, leading to disruption, some power outages as well. We also have heavy rain moving into parts of Wales with melting snow here. Could lead to some localised flooding. To the south of this, bright and breezy, but temperatures on the mild side, 13, 14 Celsius. But for the vast majority, a cold, icy day to come. And icy stretches quickly reforming across parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland as we move into the evening time. Further wintry showers moving in from the north across northern Scotland here. Could see some local icy stretches overnight into Monday morning as well. Wintry outbreaks across Northern Ireland and then heavy snow across northern England, southern Scotland, but rain to lower levels in places, and where we've had some snow, this continuing to melt, and then mild air pushing across the rest of England and Wales, but heavy rain as well moving its way eastwards as we head towards the early hours of Monday. Further snow across the north and the west into the early hours, so icy stretches reforming here and staying quite breezy, particularly in the east with further showers moving in. Temperatures in the north falling below freezing once more, but still mild across some southern counties of England and Wales, 4 or 5 degrees to start the day. This weather system slowly pushes into the near continent. Still the risk of some sleet and snow as it does so, brightening up for many as colder air then sinks southwards for everyone, and a cold afternoon to come on Monday. Sunny spells, wintry showers most frequent across the north, feeling cold again, temperatures in single figures across all parts of the country. See you again soon.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something